channel, we cover AFLW, Rugby League, W League, netball, cricket, and track the female stars of horse racing and more. For the latest news, interviews, and catch-up podcasts with the biggest names in women's sport, jump on the SENW channel. Download the SEN app now.
Fails to surprise you, Jared Kimber. You never quite know how abject somebody might bat and then get away with it. Here comes Southey. Stokes defends, and is that the opportunity he needed? That little life to give England a sniff in this game. That was an astonishingly poor shot.
Do you remember when he punched a locker when he was young?
Yeah, Eden Park.
Yeah, did he break his hand?
Do you know what they've done to it? They've framed it.
Which is a lovely touch. Watching him walk off, I was worried about the entire pavilion. He looked absolutely furious with himself. I mean, when I say walk off, I mean watching him start to walk off. He was furious with that. This should change his mind.
Two slips in the gully wait. Stokes comes forward. Oh, he gets lucky. It's an enormous swipe of the ball that then loops up over that slip corner down to the boundary. If you know what I mean at Lords, pretty much where that ball went when it came off the toe end of his bat in the World Cup final. It's that sort of direction, out that way. It is 4 runs in the least convincing fashion you could imagine. 82 for 4.
That's every bit as bad as the shot that he's just gone out of and had the reprieve on. So if we thought he was going to recalibrate or change his method, he's double downing.
Well, you're a brave supporter to buy a day 4 ticket when England are playing. Here comes Southey. Stokes leaves as if to contradict me. And the score remains at 82 for 4 here on SENZ and across the SEN network.
He literally is moving between swinging his bat like he has to get a train home and leaving every second ball. It's such a bizarre method that he's gone with. It's like in one moment it feels like he has to score as many runs as he can, and the next moment he's like, this is not for me. There's nothing about that last ball that says he shouldn't have also tried to swing that off his feet.
Here comes Southey round the wicket. Stokes lets that one fly on through to the gloves of Blundell. The score of 82 for 4. It reminds me a little bit of when you first get a cricket computer game and you go for something a bit expansive and you realise that was a bit risky, so I'm just going to leave the next 3. But you know that at some point your patience is going to be tested and you're going to just try and swing for the hills again.
You haven't quite worked out the correct combination to play the attacking shot, but at the same point, 3 dot balls in a row really bored you.
Yeah. You settled down, you think, I'm going to play a whole test match. And after 6 run-outs and 13 on the board, it's all over. Right then, here comes Southey. Bowling to Stokes, down the leg side it goes. You wait for the slip cordon to go up in excitement, but nothing on it. One ball left of this over. 277 is the target. It'll be the 3rd highest run chase successfully achieved here at Lords. 82 for 4 is where England are at. It should be 5. But for Colin de Grandhomme overstepping. He's had a funny old time of it today, de Grandhomme, as we see a Chemist Warehouse replay on our monitor. I don't think he's going to go down in the de Grandhomme scrapbook necessarily. More in a moment as it comes to Southey to conclude the over. Oh, it's a loose shot again from Stokes that makes almost the whole ground wince and gasp in horror as he comes lunging forward. And it goes through to the gloves of the keeper, but for the grace of God, not finding that outside edge. Southey looks frustrated. England 82 for 4. The target 277. If you missed it earlier, Colin de Grandhomme was out the second of 3 wickets and 3 balls when Stuart Broad was doing his famed celebrity appeal. But as the LBW shout was being denied by the umpire, he didn't notice de Grandhomme. He was out of his ground and then only poked through the stumps down from the gully.
And it wasn't one of those things where he was procrastinating in the middle of the pitch for ages either. He got a bit distracted by originally where the ball was going and then Broad and the umpire. But he kind of turned around. It took him a long time to turn around. What's worse? I think it's the batting, because he still has a chance of getting another wicket. Although if Stokes goes on to win this, it's probably the no ball.
Yeah, it all depends on what happens.
We're in the bar after the game, and this has happened to you, right? Like, I really think getting run out of the LBW is probably more embarrassing embarrassing.
That's more likely to end up on the end-of-season blooper reel.
Yeah,
But the overstep. But the overstep could be more costly.
correct.
He's coming in now, Colin de Grandhomme, up from the pavilion end. That's worked off the hips of Joe Root down towards the giant figure of Jameson in front of the mount stand.
I'm not saying that was intentional, but I'm saying I wouldn't put past a very canny cricketer like de Grandhomme to bowl that on the hip of Root, knowing that he's probably just going to turn that for one because he wants to bowl to South. In fact, Root is now laughing at him. I'm not sure if he was suggesting the same thing because that was such an obvious ball, so he turned for one down to fine leg with the thought that he wants to bowl at Stokes again as soon as possible.
Understandably so. He comes round the wicket to the England captain, who plays cautiously towards mid-on. There's a real energy in the field. Black Caps know they break this partnership. They're almost home and dry. 277 the target. 83 for 4 is the score. Colin de Grandhomme is a pleasing throwback, both in terms of how he plays and how he looks. Bustling in now round the wicket to Volty Ben Stokes, who defends back to the bowler.
Well, when we grew up, we saw a lot of seam bowlers who were batters who bowled at this pace. In fact, one just walked in and then walked out of the box. Craig McMillan, slightly more aggressive than Colin de Grandhomme, but it really just doesn't exist anymore. That kind of cricketer who bowls a little bit of medium pace but bats in your top 5 doesn't really exist anymore.
De Grandhomme round the wicket. Stokes leaning on a ball and a little more restraint in this over.
And how many seam bowlers in Test cricket, no matter where they bat, would be at his pace? Kyle Mayers, I think, is quicker, although it's at least in a conversation. Of course, England may not want to be reminded of Kyle Mayers at the moment.
Yeah, let's go through one sort of trauma at a time, perhaps, Jared. So that's the question. Here comes de Grandhomme leaning forward, a big stride from Stokes, who looks a man changed after the previous over. One ball left of the 29th. It's 83 for 4, chasing 277.
Yeah, but he hasn't played a crazy shot in almost a full over now.
Wait for it. Here comes de Grandhomme. Into ball to Stokes, who comes charging down the track, lets the ball hit him. Well, we knew it was coming. Had to be right. End of the over. It is 83 for 4 on SENZ. The target, 277.
Does Kennard's make trade easy? Kenoth. Is iced coffee liquid gold milk straight from the udders of heaven? Kenoth. Do tradies deserve special treatment like a 2-hour delivery promise, equipment swap and service on site, and express load and go service at a Kennard's higher branch? Kenoth! Head to your closest branch to get the trade easy experience.
Test cricket on SENZ with Razeen, the Paints Kiwis Trust. Live from Lords with England 83 for 4, chasing 277. Joe Root, their former captain, is on strike out there in the middle with the current captain. Stokes. Root almost finding the outside edge. He looks towards the square leg umpire, takes a few strides that way, knows that it was a false shot, almost getting a little tickle on it.
I mean, we're 29, almost 30 overs in, and that went a long way. That was traditional outswing, and that really hooked. It wasn't a particularly good shot by Root, but at this stage, you would have expected the ball to. It's almost swinging as much now as it has almost all. So you can understand why he was beaten by that one.
In comes Southey, a smooth approach, driven. At perfect time, you could hear a sort of plink off the toe end of the bat as he stopped in the covers. 3 of the dismissals that we've seen of the 4 have been bowled in this innings. There should have been a 4th out of 5 where Stokes not to get that reprieve. And watching England bat, I mean, I sort of equate it to when you build flat pack furniture from that well-known Swedish.
You're not on the BBC, I think you could say it here, but okay.
You know the one. And you go into it with confidence and hope, but eventually know there's going to be a pile of timber left in the corner. Do you know what I mean? It's just an endless stream, always. Southey, driven nicely by Root, but it's well stocked in the covers, and there'll be no run. It's just always, you feel, a matter of time before something is splintered and sent demolished to the ground.
Best case scenario, you end up with a perfect unit which has screw marks on the wrong side because you put something on backwards at one point.
Yeah, and if we extend the analogy, when England do get test victories, there is always an asterisk about, well, something went a bit wrong, or they got, let's go back to Headingley 2019. There is always the screw the wrong way round, which is Nathan Lyon's missed run out. There'll always be that. Here comes Tim Southey running in from the nursery end down below us, dropping a little shorter, jammed into the ground. To ground on waiting. But Gully picks up the score at 83 for 4.
They're very much looking to bowl very similar line of length that Australia sort of destroyed him with in the Ashes, which is a little bit shorter than what traditionally before the Ashes of the off bail to him, and they were basically trying to square him up a little bit, and because he plays back, he was a little bit fuller. Now teams are going just a little bit shorter and keeping the ball away from him and hoping that he will nick off, and that's how
not far from tea here as this next defended by Root, who comes forward immaculately to push the ball away on the England balcony. I can see Johnny Bairstow is sitting with sunglasses on. His work in this test match done.
job done. Well, I say work on my tan.
Well, his work's done. I didn't say it was particularly well done. He's had a brilliant test catching.
It's a very good appealing.
Yes, he fielded brilliantly. It was when he was bowled for 16 by Carl Jamieson off his final ball of his spell that was problematic. As the next ball, it's just a little bit from Southey. Rehearses one of his favourite shots, that little run down third man, but as the over comes to an end, the score is at 83 for 4. 277 is the target. Jared Kimber has departed. The aforementioned Craig McMillan is ready to join the conversation. And dare I ask, Craig, is there ever an excuse for overstepping?
Nope. No excuse whatsoever. Happens a lot in training. You find bowlers say, I never do it in a game, so I can do it in training, I never do it in a game. Well, Colin Grondon's done it in a game, and it could prove costly.
He's continuing from the pavilion end. Stokes forward in defence. 83 for 4.
Isn't it a great day, is he, old Colin?
We would just say, not one that he'll necessarily find a photo of and stick on his bathroom wall, I don't think. Well, it could yet be.
Well, yeah.
That's the joy of the life of a bowler, I suppose. As he could rip through England's middle and lower order and find himself carried off Lords by his teammates. I sense that won't happen necessarily the way his day's gone so far. He's in now, bowling to Stokes, who shuffles across his stumps and defends.
It's all been a bit frantic from Pete Stokes. There's been a lot of moving around in the crease. He's been on the charge a number of times to de Granton. One delivery that led to his dismissal that was called no ball. It's better off just standing still, watching the ball closely and reacting, I think. It's just been overcomplicating things a little bit.
He's waiting now. And this time he's a little more static in the crease and he dabs the ball down towards Will Young at mid-wicket. To Grandham, for whom the approach always looks slightly laboured. You feel that there's quite a lot of energy put into the delivery stride. 83 for 4 it remains. There's been a little we've seen a run. As Stokes waits for de Granton and is forward out of his crease defending.
Yeah, it's almost like he feels the pitch to try and upset de Granton's length, like he's bowling hand grenades, but he's really not. I paid him a lot of respect. He just looks agitated, Ben Stokes. His birthday boy today, I think 31 he is. What he'd love for a big innings here for England. You just get the feeling that something could happen at any ball.
De Granton bowling, and that skews off an outside edge down towards third slip. There's almost a sort of sense in the air that you're just waiting at any moment for something somewhere to happen.
Whereas New Zealand have been very good. They've been relentless the way the bowlers have just back one another up, keep coming at England. They've done a terrific job. I just feel like something's going to give here.
Stokes puts his gloves on again. And hold on a minute, there's a problem for Colin de Grandhomme and an ooh around the ground because he has stopped his run up and immediately was limping. He's actually trudging back to the end of his mark as if he's okay, but it was one of those where you think, well, there goes the hamstring. It was quite an abrupt pause.
Well, they would have put the full stop on his day. Here at Lords, de Grandhomme just running in. I thought he'd maybe just gone over on his ankle or something. There's some pain there because he was hobbling in, and now, questioning whether he'll be able to continue on here. New Zealand might have lost a bowler.
I think he's going to try and continue from that far end.
No.
Maybe they are saying no. Well, that is pretty much the full stop on a pretty ugly day for Colin de Grandhomme. And he gets some warm applause from the Lord's crowd as he makes his way towards the pavilion. Falls on that white brim hat. And that will be a frustration because having been out in a curious way and then overstepped when bowling Ben Stokes, he now finds himself heading off the field, walking rather gingerly. We're going to see Darren Mitchell, the Centurion, having a bowl.
Yeah, nice. He's a useful little part-timer. Nice little mediums that just got the one delivery to finish off. Colin de Grandhomme's over. Heading off to see what's going on.
Where are you bowling when you got one ball at Ben Stokes in this weird sort of mood?
Try and bounce it. He got one. He likes to bounce it too, Daryl Mitchell, to be fair. He's not shy of it. There's a man back there, why not?
Yeah, protection on the leg side, behind square on that boundary in front of the grandstand. As in comes Mitchell around the wicket. It's a length ball, slightly full of a leg, pushed into the offside by Stokes. Just a little bit of yes, no, maybe. But they decide against the run. And the score at the end of the over, 83 for 4. The target 277. We're going to be joined by Adam Collins in a minute here on SEN10.
On the SEN app, check out the SENW channel with stars of women's sport at home and abroad. Daisy Pearce, Katie Brown, Stephanie Brant. Plus, on the SENW channel, we cover AFLW, Rugby League, W League, netball, cricket, and track the female stars of horse racing and more. For the latest news, interviews, and catch-up podcasts with the biggest names in women's sport, jump on the SENW channel. Download the SEN app now.
Adam Collins joining Craig McMillan to see us through to tea on SEN Z Test Cricket for Rosine. The paint the professionals use with the home side 83 for 4 in pursuit. 77. I'll tell you what, at one point the board read 76 for 5 when Ben Stokes had his brain explosion, but the birthday boy reprieved. Meanwhile, Joe Red, what must he be thinking? He's just batting normally. He's seen, he's just doing what he always does. Or what he always tries to do, at least. He's Southey. Bowling again. Root plays late, plays well for about 4th slip for 4. You might say that was with a degree of risk, but as we saw throughout 2021, that's one of his best shots. Root moves into the 20s, 87 for 4.
Just a slight degree of risk with that shot from Root.
I suppose if you get out to it and you pop it down the throat a second slip, it looks dreadful, but he's been out there long enough now that I think he knows he's absorbing that kind of risk, and it's off the face of the bat. Nicely handled.
Interesting that New Zealand have only got 2 slips in the gully. If there'd been a 3rd slip, might not have carried, but would have gone to that 3rd slip fielder.
And we've had 3 slips, 4 slips for the whole test match, with pretty much the exception of when Ben Stokes went the short ball route late yesterday against Mitchell and Blundell. Feels like a long time ago in this test match now. Sun back out at Lord. Southey away from us towards Root on 21. Bowls here and Root leaves alone. A full length delivery there from Southey. quite staggering to think how that Stokes dismissal played out. There was it's a good Twitter back and forth, including from our resident net whisperer, Bharat Sundaresan, who's part of our SEN Test cricket team. And he's watched Matthew Wade net before with Colin de Grandhomme bowling and charged him every ball. He refused to be out-legged before him in the net season. So I guess it might be something about bowlers of that kind of pace that can get in a batter's head. We saw Kyle Mayers in the Caribbean just a couple of months ago against England take a couple of bags. Southee bowls and Root tries to drive, miscues, taken by Southee in his follow-through.
I've been thinking about this pitch, Adam, because Joe Root's really struggled for any timing in front of the wicket. He's had a number of drives to cover to mid off that last one as well, where he's actually tried to hit the ball quite hard, but there's just no timing in the shots. So that says to me that the surface is a little bit too paced and it's hard to actually get the right timing through the shot. Changing the field, deep point going out now, which is interesting.
Yeah.
We saw that area left open by England for a lot of the New Zealand innings.
What that might be about, from your perspective, how are they, like, what would prompt deep points go out after Southee's had Root almost nearly squared up there with the previous delivery? I mean, what would be the thinking of Williamson, do you think?
Well, the thinking is that they're leaving their gap open so that they see Joe Root in the hope that he tries to access through that area, which then brings the 3 slips or the 2 slips in the gully into play. He just like he's got an issue with maybe an eye or something here, Joe Root.
He's got his lid off, having a chat to umpire Goff. Got to back it on now with the captain Williamson in a consultation with Tim. Veterans of this team came through at the same time.
Yeah, the other reason, Adam, is he might be saying, let's give Joe Root one. We want to bowl at Ben Stokes.
Yeah, imagine that. Imagine that. Actually, yeah, we wouldn't mind bowling at one of the most destructive players in the world. Says a bit about the session we've been watching here at Lord's. Southee bowls Root down the track, pushing down towards Jamieson, a bit on, no single on offer.
Again, no timing.
Yeah, and the other I picked up from the press box from those who are watching England in the Caribbean a couple of months ago is that Stokes did that charge every ball thing to Kyle Mayers, who bowls a similar pace to the Grandhomme. So, I mean, is it a nervous tick? Is it a strategic part of the game? Either way, it doesn't look good, and it feels a player of his talent. I mean, why is he complicating it to such an extent? Southee bowls, Root's backed on the pad, going well down the leg side, but Southee likes it quite a bit. They get through 4 leg by. I'm sure they won't review. 88 for 4 the score.
Yeah, it looks ungainly, it looks frantic, and there's no real need for it. Ben Stokes is such a quality player, he really is. He stands still, he watches the ball, he'll deal with whatever's coming his way. You sort of feel like it was playing into Grandhomme's hands and New Zealand's hands by making all those movements.
It's cloudy again here at Lord's. It won't be long before the lights are in use. I'm fairly certain in the final session. 10 minutes till tea. Round the wicket. Southee now to Stokes. Turns him out towards deep square for 1. Every run that Stokes makes, the crowd are behind him. He's 7 from 40. It's 89 for 4 at the end of the 32nd over, with Root on 21 down the other end. They require a further 188 runs to win from here. And coverage is for Resine Colour Shops for expert paint and colour advice. And thanks to everybody who's dropped a text as to where you're listening in New Zealand. 8833. Pull a couple of names out of the hat later on to win those $25 vouchers. Thanks to the Good Spirits Hospitality Group. Check out the Fox Auckland's #1 sports bar. 8833, your name and where you're listening. $25 food and drink vouchers throughout this series between England and New Zealand. I wonder whether Mitchell will continue. Trying to get a sense of that from the pavilion. No, it's going to be spin for the first time.
Here we go. A couple of token overs before the tea break.
Well, Ajaz Patel didn't bowl in the first innings. The last time he bowled in Test cricket, he took 14 wickets in the match, including an innings of 10 for 119. And here he is. It's been a long wait.
And that was, 5-6 months ago?
Yeah, from Mumbai to the home of cricket, with nowhere in between. He's going to start with a slip and a short leg to Stokes. Deep point, deep square, long on. And Jazz bowls and Stokes sweeps, comes off the pad, balloons up. Might have been an inside edge based on the response we saw from the wicketkeeper Blundell.
Bring Long Run up. Bring him up, Tim Stokes.
Yeah.
If he wants to take it on 5 minutes before the tea break, let him. If he hits it for 4 or 6, who cares? It brings a wicket-taking opportunity into play.
And Jazz bowls and Stokes swings across the line with the sweep shot, gets loads of it, all the way for 6 into the grandstand. Well, as you say, if he wants to have a go, let him try it to the second deck into the corporate box. It's gone a long way. That's some strike. Stokes to 13, 95 for 4.
That's fine, though. There's some risk involved in that shot. You can get a top edge that could go straight up. So New Zealand would give away 20 runs right now to have the wicket Ben Stokes. Let him take that risk. But, gee, he did time that well. It's gone a long way.
Ajaz Patel picked up 4 wickets in his test match last year against England at Edgbaston, including Joe Root in the second innings. Bowls here to Stokes, who sneaks one down towards long on where the fielder remains back. Stokes off strike, 96 for 4. The captain's 14 on his birthday.
See, Williamson put a deep mid-wicket out straight away after that shot from Stokes. To me, that's too reactive. Like, it's good that he's taken it on. It's created an opportunity. Okay, it's gone for 6. That's fine. It's still 96 for 4. Another wicket here is huge. Let him do that. Too defensive from New Zealand here just before a break.
So for Root, they have a slip. It's Mitchell. A short leg. It's Young beneath the lid. Just one man back and deep backward square. No deep point. And mid-on is now up. And Jazz around the wicket. Root is well forward, smothering the spin.
I don't think we're going to see a lot of Turnaway on the surface. Remember, that's only day 3.
Yes, it won't be quite the way it was when he collected all 10.
No, it won't. But New Zealand would take 1 here from him.
Absolutely. 1 would be plenty before tea, especially. Delivers to Root. Lap sweeps. Gets it away. Fine. They'll get 2. Nicely played. Root moves along to 23, 98 for 4 the score. That target's 277. Conway did the tidying up down there beneath us. Yes, it was quite the test match where New Zealand were defeated in 2.5 days at Mumbai. On the same day that he took all 10, they were bowled out for 62. Bowling here to Root again, back in the crease, pushing to cover. The end of Ajaz Patel's first over of this match. We'll probably get 1 more in before tea. We'll take a break. Our coverage for Razine, the Paints Kiwis Trust. England 98 for 4. We won't take a break. We're pushing all the way through. My apologies, Macca.
Yeah, it's been an interesting session. I have to say, New Zealand session picked up the 4 wickets, or 3 wickets this session. But have England 4 down, should have had the big wicket at Ben Stokes. That will be eating away at them. Jameson, Southey bowled, have been outstanding with the ball. Things are just going to have to change a little bit. John was just starting to get into his work and bowled a nice wee spell. He's bringing that control back for Kane Williamson that he loves. So now it'll be interesting after the tea break whether he'll have to go to his big 2. I think either Southey's finishing here, so maybe Jameson will bowl after the tea break. He's going to have a role to play.
So around the wicket, Southey to Stokes. Last over before tea, and Stokes on the front foot defending the first ball down towards mid-on. If England can settle with these 2 for a couple of hours, I mean, owing to the fact that it's been a low-scoring game, you're only ever 1 session away from being back in it. And there's still 42 overs left in the day after this one, so I mean, I doubt they'll get all of them in.
I mean, the average run rate throughout the test has been roughly about 3 and over.
Yeah.
Give or take. So it's another 20 runs.
Even if they lost 1 wicket, we came back tomorrow with about 80 odd to get, that could be a cracker of a finish.
Yep.
On the other hand, it wouldn't take much for England to collapse again. Southey bowls and Stokes gets forward. And I wonder how much time we'll devote to talking about that overstep and Colin de Grandhomme if Stokes still is there in a couple of hours. He's now 14. Chopped on 1 after charging the medium pace of de Grandhomme and is recalled retrospectively by Paul Rifle. His boot was behind the line.
Just adds another chapter to the whole New Zealand-England Lords
scenario, doesn't it? Ben Stokes has been right in the thick of it. Back to the 2019 World Cup.
Yes, 2015 here, that extraordinary 100 that Stokes made to push England ahead of the game. Saudi delivers, and forward again is Stokes defending. Even last year when England didn't have a go, there was a nice target given to them that day, 273 in 75 overs. I mean, it was a generous declaration in some respects.
Yeah, we'd obviously lost some time to rain, but that was all about mindset and where the England team was at that period of time. They didn't back themselves. They didn't even consider it, and it was a very generous declaration for Kane Williamson to give. He's generally not that generous in terms of the targets he set, so it was really disappointing that England didn't have a crack. I think that's one of the positives of McCullum and Stokes together as a partnership, that if they would set the same target this time now, there'd be no doubt they would have a crack at it.
Yeah, I think it in the end proved to be a point we could look back at retrospectively and say that was where it started to drop off for England in 2021. Saudi to Stokes, it's better staying home, pushing out towards Williamson a bit off, no single. I mean, they lose at Edgbaston in a meek display. They lost 2 of the 3 test matches. Result.
The final day and see if we can do it. What have we got to lose? There's no World Test Championship points up for grab. It was just a real opportunity for me to explore some of the batters in their side.
And the commentary from the coach Chris Silverwood left a bit to be desired in that series too. Saudi bowls and Stokes defends, where he effectively said the New Zealand series was a warm-up for the Ashes later that year when New Zealand were in town to play the World Test Championship final against India. They just didn't tally at all, and it gave a bit of an insight to one of the broader problems of cricket. They are so fixated on Australia.
Yeah, and how'd that work out?
Not that well, believe me. It's the worst Ashes series I've seen by a mile. I mean, a competitive field.
You've got to play what's in front of you, the here and now. And to me, England are always looking to test ahead further, but concentrate on what is in front of you. And while it came back to bite them, they lost the second test at Birmingham, just the 3rd time that New Zealand won a series in England. So, but the mentality of this England side, while the performances haven't really changed at the moment, will change.
Last ball of the session, Saudi finds the inside part of Stokes' bat forward. Quick single taken, they get through. Taking on Blundell, doing it well. So positive cricket to finish from England. 3 wickets in the session. Just watching to make sure the players are going off here. I'm fairly sure it should be T. It is T. So they walk off with a score 99 for 4. They started the session at 31 for 1, losing Zach Crawley, caught by Saudi at first slip, according to Corden for the umpteenth time. From the bowling of Jamieson for 9, his 2nd wicket. Ollie Pope done by an absolute beauty from Trent Boult. Just playing down the wrong line, just enough movement from round the wicket, pavilion end, straightened up the slope, took his off stump out of the ground. Bowls for 10. At that stage, it was 46 for 3. And then Bairstow tried to mow a ball through the offside, went through the gate, and Johnny Bairstow bowled, as he is so often at this level, for 16. At that point, it was 69 for 4. This pair have subsequently put on 30 and gotten England to 99 for 4. They're still 178 runs away from their victory target of 277. Craig McMillan, New Zealand, it's still their game to win here, no doubt, but with Root and Stokes there, England are still entitled to belief.
Yeah, they are. New Zealand session so far, the bowlers have done an outstanding job. Kyle Jamieson, for me, was probably the pick of the New Zealand bowlers throughout that session. That extra height means that he garners a bit more bounce, it's a bit more up and down, and he really picked up a couple of key wickets. But there'll be still some nerves there, because when you've got records like Joe Root and Ben Stokes have, and we've seen Ben Stokes previously in Test matches won that had no right to win, he would never write them off. So still some work for New Zealand to do, but you have to say with England 99 for 4, New Zealand at this stage have their noses in front.
Thank you, Craig McMillan. We'll have a cup of tea here at Lord's. We'll be back in about a quarter of an hour for the final session on this 3rd day. The target's 277, England 99 for 4. Our coverage for Razine, the Paint the Professionals News.
The Sounding Board with Craig Hutchison and Damien Barrett. It's sport, it's the media, it's talking about the issues that matter.
The warming of Peter Dutton, Damo, we predicted this was happening.
We did, and we set you the task of being his warmer, given how successfully you have warmed yourself in the past. From that, as I keep saying, that chicken fillet at the back of the freezer for 2 years, you've forgotten about?
Peter Dutton I relate to, obviously. Like me, been attacked for his looks along the way, unfairly. Both pretty handsome guys that have been miscast in this sort of Voldemort sort of role.
Peter Dutton, I relate to.
My Peter's a big softy, front page.
Wow. Are you buying this?
I've heard of some crazy being sold, but his wife really put herself out there and the role of the big softy routine. I think we can agree on a lot of things. Big softy, only his wife and Luke Darcy feel like a big softy.
Well, he meditates. Luke Darcy's introduced him to meditation.
The Sounding Board podcast with Hutchie and Damo. Thanks to Drinkwise. If you're choosing to have a drink, choose to drink wise.
Still hunting around for incredible value? Ditch the magnifying glass and check out the Kogan Money credit card. There's no annual fee, plenty of tantalising rewards, and if you meet the spend requirements, you could earn $400 in credit to spend on Kogan.com. So go on and make the switch to a great value credit card at koganmoney.com.au/radio.
Offer ends August 21. T's and C's, credit criteria, other fees and charges apply. Credit provider National Australia Bank Limited.
The TAB Queensland Racing Carnival is where champions emerge. Over the years, legends like Might and Power, Black Caviar and Winx made their mark in the Sunshine State. Last year it was Zaki and Incentivize, and this year the tradition continues. Staged over 10 weeks with more than $21 million in prize money, including 8 Group 1s throughout the Stradbroke season. Everything you need to know is at QLDRacingCarnival.com.au. Queensland is racing. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.
On the SEN app, check out the SENW channel with stars of women's sport at home and abroad. Daisy Pearce, Katie Brown, Stephanie Brance. Plus, on the SENW channel, we cover AFLW, Rugby League, W League, netball, cricket, and track the female stars of horse racing and more. For the latest news, interviews, and catch-up podcasts with the biggest names in women's sport, jump on the SENW channel. Download the SEN app now.
$100 just for switching your internet provider? Switch your internet to Mate and enter the promo code MATE100 on sign up to get $100 credit on your account once connected. You heard right. Get $100 credit just for switching and connecting internet with Mate. Be quick, limited time offer. Visit letsbemates.com.au or search Mate online.
Credit applied 28 days after activation. Terms and conditions apply.
Stay in pole position this week with radio's #1 motorsport show, The Driver's Seat with Matt McKeldin and Stephen Johnson, covering everything from Formula 1 to V8 supercars.
We spoke to TTR driver Josh Buchan and asked him how he's getting on with his new teammate Nathan Morecambe.
He lives on like 25 acres or something and has no phone service. So even if I want to call him at like 2 a.m. before a race and try and rev him up, I can't actually even speak to him.
That's this week on The Driver's Seat.
Want to win the ultimate 2022 Toyota AFL Grand Final VIP experience? Thanks to Choices Flooring, you and a mate could be mixing with the stars at some of the biggest events of the footy season. Experience all the hype of Grand Final week firsthand, then be at the big match itself, the 2022 Toyota AFL Grand Final. Prize includes all tickets, 6 nights accommodation and return flights. Visit iCanWin.com.au and you could win thanks to Choices Flooring. AFL authorised GF promotion, GFAFL 22/07.
It's the time! It's a movie script. That is Test cricket at its finest. Live from Lords, the first test, England versus New Zealand on SEN Test Cricket.
Jamieson bowled to Lees. He's been bowled, has he? An extraordinary dismissal, and Lees just let that go and he clips the top of the off stump. Check up it once again.
Crawley edges and is taken. Really good diving catch at third slip.
Bolt gets to the crease and bowls, and he's bowled him! Straight through Ollie Pope. Stumps everywhere.
He's coming in again now. Bairstow's bowls.
That's a beauty.
Johnny Bairstow goes for the umpteenth time in his career. We see
The highlights there from the second session of day 3 of the first test between England
New Zealand. This is the situation at Test cricket. In other cricket news, the Australian men's team is continuing their preparation for next week's T20 series against Sri Lanka. Mitch Marsh spoke to the media yesterday afternoon.
Yeah, it was obviously another awesome experience at the IPL. I think after my first couple of weeks there, I started to think that I was cursed in India. But once I got through my initial, my injury was very minor, so it was really nothing to worry about at the start. But then, to play the one game and then get COVID, it was a bit of a shaky start. But once I got going, it was nice to put a few consistent performances on the board and contribute to a few wins for Delhi. Absolutely loved my time there. Spent 8 weeks with Punter and Shane Watson and James Hopes, with those guys and Davey Warner. It was a great experience, and a shame we couldn't sneak into the finals.
Do you feel like that number 3 spot, like you're really getting a good run at it now, Mitch? Like, do you really feel like you've gotten your head around it? And also, just wanted to ask about Ricky Ponting as well. What did you pick up from him? I've loved batting number 3. It's probably been a bit over 12 months now, so I certainly feel like that's my position in T20 cricket, and I've loved batting the power play. I've batted a lot with Davey Warner, had some great partnerships with him, and it's been really enjoyable. So hopefully I can keep being as consistent as I possibly can at number 3 and stay up there. And as for Ricky, just a great fella. We obviously know, everyone knows, and everyone speaks about him so much about what he's achieved in the game, but probably got a real sense of how much he cares for his players, and I guess that's probably what he was like as a captain and as the leader of a team. Just the way he makes you feel made me feel like I was, a really important player for Delhi. And I think as a player, you gain confidence from that when you coach or captain or leader. Instills that sort of confidence in you. So, he was unbelievable. And it was a shame that our North Melbourne, we couldn't watch North Melbourne get a few wins together, but that was about it. The Roos are struggling, mate. Yeah, thanks for that, Mitch.
Andrew McGlashan.
Thanks, Cole. Hey, Mitch. Just to follow on from what Louis was asking there, really, just to sort of go back a bit further. I mean, 12 months ago, just sort of getting ready for that Caribbean tour where the chance to bat 3 emerged for you. How do you reflect on the last 12 months, particularly in your T20 cricket, and how do you feel now as an Australian cricketer compared to maybe 12 months ago?
Yes, obviously, it's been a pretty crazy 12 months. A lot's happened, and I've certainly loved, playing as much cricket for Australia as I have consistently. Probably reflecting on the last 12 months, I think as I've got a bit older, gained a bit more experience, I started to understand what works for me when it comes to preparation, and going into each game feeling as good as I possibly can. And like I've spoken about, international cricket is really hard, but you've got to believe that you belong here. And I think over the last 12 months, I've really gained the belief that my best can match it with anyone in the world. And I think that all the best players in the world have that mentality, and that mentality allows me to go out there and just play freely and really focus on my role for the team, and being present throughout games, being present throughout my preparation, my lead up to every game, to every tour. And it's allowed me to probably have my most consistent 12 months of cricket over the last period of time. So, that's about it.
And can I just ask about the bowling as well? You managed to get a few decent spells towards the back end of the IPL, depending on the balance of the side you guys go with in these games. You might play one frontline quick fewer, you might get a few more overs. How do you feel it's coming out with the ball and the role you can play with that part of your game?
I spoke to Finch yesterday, just asking if I was going to be taking the first over with ball. Didn't get a great reception, so I think I'll be sticking to the middle overs. But like my batting, I've gained a lot more confidence in my bowling, my plans. Andrew McDonald's been unreal for me in that sense, and given me a lot more confidence in myself to bowl at different times. And Finchy's been the same. He's sort of lent on me with the ball at different times throughout the last 12 months, and that's given me a lot of confidence. So I think as an all-rounder, and with the amount of bowling we've got
team. It's just preparing to bowl, and then whenever the skipper gives you the ball, just making sure you try and execute your plans. And but in the same sentence, it might be a case that I don't actually bowl any balls because we've got so many bowlers here. So I'll just stay ready and try and contribute when needed.
Cheers, Mitch. Thanks.
Chloe.
Thanks, Cole. Hey, Mitch. I guess for the lads like yourself who were in Pakistan and then got to play in the IPL, do you kind of see that as like a perfect lead-in for the conditions you'll likely face in Sri Lanka?
Yeah, certainly the heat. I was kind of hoping that 8 weeks in India would acclimatise me for Sri Lanka, but yesterday's training session was bloody tough and hot and sweaty. But yeah, look, I just think the IPL in general, it's such a great tournament. You go there and your cricket just improves. There's so many great cricketers there. Those conditions are obviously foreign to us, so learning as much as you can, playing a lot of spin. So you come to tours like this, and like you said, I feel really well prepared, and hopefully I can contribute to a few wins.
You said how 3 fits with your game and so forth. Could you ever see yourself opening if the need arose, or sort of going in when there's no wickets and everything's fresh?
Yeah, I think, to be honest, it's not really something that I think about. And it's just, I know it sounds cliche, but I know that I'm going to be batting a 3 and I prepare that way. And if things change in the future, then so be it. But for now, I'm very happy batting number 3.
Australian all-rounder Mitch Marsh there. This has been the tea break on SENZ Test Cricket. Back with the third session live from Lords shortly. The TAB Queensland Racing Carnival is where champions emerge. Over the years, legends like Might and Power, Black Caviar and Winx made their mark in the Sunshine State. Last year it was Zaki and Incentivize, and this year the tradition continues. Staged over 10 weeks with more than $21 million in prize money, including 8 Group 1s throughout the Stradbroke season. Everything you need to know is at QLDRacingCarnival.com.au. Queensland is racing. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.
Download the SEN app from the Apple and Google App stores. Then get set for all your big moments in sports.
Ash on the forehand, Goskowski's done it. Ash Barty. Chalawala short for 3. And striking the pure.
Listen to any SEN show from around Australia and New Zealand.
Gary White and Tim Watson. This is Trackside. Tim Gossick. There's an Izzy for breakfast. Tinsley.
Plus, it's now available on Apple CarPlay. The SEN app, your home of sport, from wherever you are on the planet. $100 just for switching your internet provider? 8. Switch your internet to Mate and enter the promo code MATE100 on sign up to get $100 credit on your account once connected. You heard right. You get $100 credit just for switching and connecting internet with Mate. Be quick, limited time offer. Visit letsbemates.com.au or search Mate online.
Credit applied 28 days after activation. Terms and conditions apply.
Join Caroline Wilson and Corey Perkin for their weekly podcast, Don't Shoot the Messenger, filled with their insights into the latest news and a little sport, good local tips, and plenty of recommendations on what they're reading, watching, and whipping up in the kitchen.
It's not all bad news going into winter, everybody. These are my tips on how to take care of yourself and conserve yourself through winter. Ginger, it's the best in everything. Put it in everything that you cook. It ties up everything in a nice neat bow. All the downstairs characters get a major crack. Look, let's face it, Corey, we all cried at the end. The amazing fact is, A, he's denying it. B, nobody thought to turn off the screen. 9 or 10 ABC employees saw the entire thing, some of whom are receiving counselling.
You'll find the Don't Shoot the Messenger podcast on the SEN app or subscribe wherever you listen to podcasts. Thanks to Red Energy, most satisfied customers 11 years in a row. Maybe it's time you called Red Energy on 131806.
Go on, make the call. We all believe in you.
One at a time,
please. Thousands of Aussies keep switching to Kogan Mobile. But hurry right now. You can get started with Kogan from just $2.90 for 30 days. With unlimited calls and texts and a big 20 gig of data at award-winning prepaid prices. Make the call. Switch to Kogan Mobile from just $2.90 for the first 30 days at koganmobile.com.au/radio.
Stay in pole position this week with radio's #1 motorsport show, The Driver's Seat with Matt McKeldin and Stephen Johnson, covering everything from Formula One to V8 supercars.
We spoke to TCR driver Josh Buchan and asked him how he's getting on with his new teammate Nathan Morecambe.
He lives on like 25 acres or something and has no phone service. So even if I want to call him at like 2 a.m. before a race and try and rev him up, I can't actually even speak to him.
That's this week on The Driver's Seat.
Oh, a good mark to Wilson. He plays on a full pace and kicks a beauty to Thomas. Thomas kicks off to Harris. Harris closes in on 50. Big wave. He's tackled by Smith. Or is it Williams? Williams scrabbles for the ball. Kicks it to a guy in blue who kicks it to some other guy in blue. Now some tall bloke has the ball. He kicks it to an even taller bloke. Kick. Handball. Kick. Don't miss the best bits. You won't miss a moment if you drink Wise. Proudly brought to you by Drinkwise.
It's the touchdown! That's a movie script. That is Test cricket at its finest. Live from Lords, the first Test, England versus New Zealand on SEN Test Cricket.
SENZ Test Cricket for Razine, the Paints, the Kiwis Trust. Adam Collins and Craig McMillan in commentary with the home side, England 99 for 4. Their target is 277. In the middle session of this third day, they lost Zach Crawley for 9. Caught in the slips from the bowling of Carl Jamieson. Ollie Pope was bowled by Trent Bolt. Lovely delivery round the wicket from the pavilion end for 10. And Johnny Bairstow was also bowled by Carl Jamieson for 16. At that stage, they were 69 for 3. Make that 69 for 4, sorry. This pair have added 30. They were lucky not to have the partnership broken when Stokes was on 1. He went dancing at Colin de Grandhomme a number of times, and one of those got dragged back onto the woodwork. But de Grandhomme's boot wasn't behind the line. Stokes was called back, and now he's there on 15 with Joe Root on 23 as the players make their way out to the middle. Gloomy skies here in northwest London. We've said it a couple of times through this test so far, Craig McMillan, but it may very well be the next hour or so dictate how this test match goes.
Well, the third session yesterday on day 2 was pivotal, and I have a feeling that this session here might be very well the same. New Zealand in a strong position, having England 99 for 4, should have been 77 for 5 with that dismissal of Ben Stokes, who got reprieved because Colin de Grandhomme no ball. Certainly, I think, we've had some strange weather today, haven't we? We've had 4 seasons in one day. We've had a real mixture start the day with rain, had a bit of sunshine, blue sky, and now the cloud has come in. So New Zealand will be hoping that the lights get turned on, because when the lights get turned on here at Lords and it's overcast, ball hoops big time. It does plenty. So they'll be hoping that it continues to get a bit darker, and then in these conditions, they'll see a real chance of those lights get turned on.
And after just one over of spin from Ajaz Patel before the break, they're going to return to Trent Bolt, who bowled it so nicely in the middle session, straight after the lunch break. Mentioned that ball that he sent down to knock over Ollie Pope. That was a beauty. Not well negotiated by the England number 3, but yes, off stump out of the ground. It was a sight to behold. He's sent down 9 overs, 2 maidens, 1 for 33. I wouldn't be surprised if Jamieson starts off from the nursery end when he gets his chance. And yes, those two look the most likely at this stage for New Zealand.
It's going to be intriguing to see how Ben Stokes plays this session. It was a strange innings up until the tea break, 15 from 49, which included 1 4 and a 6 off Ajaz Patel. So 10 runs scored from 2 deliveries. The rest was pretty much just blocking. No real intent to score any runs. There's a lot of movement, use of the feet. So he's going to be up against Bolt too. If he can get just a little bit of swing away from the left-hander, he'll bring the 3 slips into play.
So 3 slips, a backward point. Ajaz out there, a cover, mid-off, mid-on, mid-wicket, long leg. Start of the third session on day 3, well outside the off stump from Trent Bolt, taken by Blundell across in front of first slip. Stokes leaving well alone there. But yes, considerable movement.
Yeah.
First ball of the session.
It was wide, wasn't it? It was easy to leave alone, but just a little bit of seam movement away and continue on with a little bit of swing. So you could say that right at this moment it's perfect bowling conditions for New Zealand.
Stokes has now faced 50 deliveries. Has to reset here. Bolt to the crease. Over the wicket. Stokes leaving alone again. A fraction fuller. Good restart from the left armour.
That's nice.
Nice bit of shape.
Oh yeah, there's some swing. That's some swing. That's going to make it difficult for Stokes.
We saw a nick off in the first innings. His 31st birthday today, Ben Stokes, leading this England team as the full-time captain for the first time. Still plenty of people here at Lord's. It's thinned out a bit in the pavilion, I must say, but the stands for the most part pretty full. Bolt, 3 slips bowls here. Stokes plays off the back foot, only as far as cover. No single.
There's a lot of talk pre-match, wasn't there, about perhaps some empty seats throughout the Test match, but I have to say the first 2 days looked like they were sold out, and today another good crowd with all the other things that are going on around London at the moment. There's a good hum around the ground.
I think a lot of people saw it sort of living here and experiencing the rhythms of life in London as a chance to get overseas for the first time in a couple of years. 4-day weekend, so that added to it, I reckon. Bolt delivers and Stokes well forward in defence.
Not to New Zealand.
No, not quite that far.
You won't get in.
No. Is it still the case that there's a restriction on who can enter New Zealand without a New Zealand passport? That kind of thing?
Yeah, I think there is. I think the borders are due to open in some time, Adam, which the tourism industry will be holding their breath waiting for.
Yeah, sure. So changing field already. They're going to send a man back to deep square on the rope in front of the grandstand. 2 balls left in the over. The lights are coming on at Lord's. Bolt delivers and Stokes goes back and defends out towards mid-on. It's been most unusual, hasn't it? Having to consider so much more with travel in the last couple of years that it seems such a luxury now to jump on a flight and go somewhere on the continent or whatever it is if you're living in the UK. So I think a lot of people would have saw this as a great chance to get away, but understandable frustration around the cricketing world in the build-up to this Test match that the tickets were so expensive, no doubt. Last ball of Bolt's over. Arrives and bowls and Stokes defends out to point, knows the call. So it made the start after tea for Trent Bolt. 99 for 4 remains the score. They're 178 runs away from their victory target of 277. Keep your text coming through throughout the final session in New Zealand on 8833 for your chance to win.
I was talking to someone the other day about slow over rates and that. It was Jonathan Agnew actually, and he talked about someone who suggested a solution. I'll tell you about it after this ball.
Salvi gets the first chance with the lights on. Nursery end, bowling to Root. It's full and defended to mid-off.
You know, we've talked about fines for the players, the captain, missing games. What about fining the umpires?
Yes,
fining the umpires. If the team is behind and you've got the control of the game and the tempo, you're going to get fined. Umpires tend to like their money, and that would hurt a number of them in the pocket. That might solve the problem.
Well, they're earning a fair bit less than the players, so if you're thinking about the relative impact of a fine. 2 slips to gully for Salvi. Bowling to Root. Finds the inside edge of the bat, spits out towards mid-wicket. Good start here from the veteran who loves bowling at Lord's.
Yeah, he's bowled beautifully, Tom Salvi. Just looks a little bit unsure there on the drive, Joe Root. It's sort of been a summation of this whole Test match where batters just haven't looked confident off the front foot. Looking to drive the ball. There's been no timing. It's either taken the outside edge, that time it was the inside edge. Salvi has done a terrific job. It's his 5th Test match here at Lord's.
Yep, he's taken 24 wickets here. Fabulous record, including 6 for 43 last year. Wide of the crease, bowls to Root, clips it out towards long leg. First run of the session brings up the England 100. Root has 24 of those.
Applause from the Lord's crowd. A small milestone on the way to a big target. In context, a big target. For this England team, a big target, especially after losing 4 wickets by the time they were 69.
Well, obviously the goal for England has to be Stokes for betting at the end of the day. But that seems a long way away. So then you have to break it down into periods. Right, let's get through the first 10 overs. That's our goal. We'll get through the first 10, then we'll reset. And so you just keep ticking off these little goals as you get along. And then all of a sudden, it's the end of the session. And then you've scored a 3 and over and things are looking good. So that will be the goal for England, to make sure that these two there are at the end.
Around the wicket straight away, Southey to Stokes. Stokes charges inside edge, down towards the wicket keeper, Blundell, and that's going to have them chatting. I'm sure the Corden will be talking to Stokes. I can't unpick this. I can't get to. He didn't do it for the 5 overs before tea.
Makes no sense at all. Talking with Michael Vaughan, the former England captain, he was just shaking his head and said, "What's wrong with standing still, keeping your eye on the ball?" Just couldn't work it out either.
And even if they're doing it in limited overs cricket, this is such a different situation. Lights on, Lords. New Zealand bowling well. Southey here, Fuller. Stokes stays at home and pushes down to mid-on, no single.
New Zealand bowled well to Stokes though, because they've given him no freebies. He's a player who likes ball on bat. He likes boundaries, and New Zealand have denied him that, dried things up. So now he's going searching. He's going looking for that ball off the middle of the bat that might get the innings away. Sometimes when you're batting and you're struggling and you can't find any time, it just takes one shot, and then all of a sudden everything clicks. Ben Stokes is probably looking for that, hoping for that. At the moment, it just looks uncertain.
So 2 out for the short ball as well. A fine leg and a deep square in front of Father Time. Southey to finish round the wicket. Stokes full driving, but straight to mid-on. Good diving stop from Carl Jamieson, stopping a 1. So the end of 36 overs on SENZ Test cricket for Razeen, made right here in New Zealand for New Zealand conditions. The home side 100 for 4.
The TAB Queensland Racing Carnival is where champions emerge. Over the years, legends like Might and Power, Black Caviar and Winx made their mark in the Sunshine State. Last year it was Zaki and Incentivize, and this year the tradition continues. Staged over 10 weeks with more than $21 million in prize money, including 8 Group 1s throughout the Stradbroke season. Everything you need to know is at qldracingcarnival.com.au. Queensland is racing. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.
Adam Collins, Craig McMillan, the final session here of day 3 at the home of cricket. New Zealand successful here back in 1999, and they've opened up this game. They were well behind at one stage, 45 for 7 on the first day. Well behind the game a couple of times, even yesterday at 56 for 4, batting a second time around, losing their top order inside the first 15 overs. They looked at all sorts, but here they are, 6 wickets away from victory. This is the big partnership. Bolt to Root, defending to the man at close-ish mid-wicket, no run.
I've got to say, Trent Bolt's bowled pretty well this test match. He came in, there was a fair bit of conjecture about whether he'd play or not. Coming back from the IPL, he only arrived in England on Monday afternoon, but I have to say that he looks like he's found some rhythm. He's done a good job. That spell he had day 1, day 2, it was, one thing you watch about Trent Bolt, when he's running in at pace, he's got rhythm. Sometimes he can be a little bit slow to the crease. It looks like he's going pretty well at the moment.
Yeah, charging in here, Pavilion ends for Root on his hip, turns him down towards fine leg. They get 1, Root wants a second, Stokes says no. So 101 for 4, Root up to 25.
But he's so important with the new ball along with Tim Southey at the top of the order on this New Zealand bowling attack. And you have to take your hats off to the New Zealand bowlers, because New Zealand bowled out for 132. That should have been the game over right there and then.
It felt as though it was still a great performance from the England bowling group, but they probably should have knocked him over for less than 100 in hindsight, given where the game was at. But Southey got away from them, made 26, de Grandhomme an unbeaten 42, which looked quite crucial in the context of this game at this stage. Root Stokes facing up to Bolt, defending out to cover, no run.
Yeah, that should have been the game done and dusted. The Bombers brought New Zealand back into the game, and then that one partnership was really the key for New Zealand that got them the total that looks pretty good on paper right at the moment, doesn't it?
Well, there wouldn't be many test matches won by a side that is 39-6 at lunch on the first day.
That is true. I guess it shows the character in this New Zealand side, the fight, the grit that they've become accustomed to and widely sort of supported with it.
Yeah, spot on. Exactly that. Bolt delivers to Stokes, just back of a length, and Stokes plays with a straight play down to mid-on, no single.
One of the sayings within the team is find a way. Whatever the situation, find a way. It doesn't have to be pretty. At times it will be ugly, but you find a way to get the job done. And it's something that this New Zealand side's done for a number of years now. There's still a lot of work to be done in this test match, but terrific job so far.
Yeah, they're a fair way back in World Test Championship calculations as well, New Zealand. Bowling, here's Bolt. And again, Stokes is well forward defending. Just the way that points are allocated in that competition is done by percentage, which all told isn't a bad way of doing it because of the disparity between some series being worth 5, worth 2, and I think what they accidentally stumbled upon during the pandemic is percentage is probably the fairest way in an unfair, inelegant competition. But New Zealand not having a particularly good run of it since winning that final at Southampton last year. They need to win test matches to give themselves a chance of going top 2 again. Bolt to finish, last call the over. Stokes slashing through the offside. Out through point. It's the first boundary of the session. His second 4. Stokes moves to 19. It's 105 for 4 on SENZ Test Cricket for Azim. The Paints Kiwis trust.
On the SEN app, check out the SENW channel with stars of women's sport at home and abroad. Stacey Pierce, Katie Brown, Stephanie Brance. Plus, on the SENW channel,
We cover AFLW, Rugby League, W League, netball, cricket, and track the female stars of horse racing and more.
for the latest news, interviews, and catch-up podcasts with the biggest names in women's sport, jump on the SENW channel. Download the SEN app now.
Test cricket. Sim Southey, ball in hand, away from us, nursery end, bowling at Root on 25. To the crease, and Root cuts straight to Ajaz Patel at point, no run. So, yes, in terms of World Test Championship calculations at the moment, as I thumb through my notes clumsily, I promise you, I do have it written down.
Well, one of the keys to the World Test Championship, Adam, is you have to win games at home.
Yeah.
You cannot afford to drop games at home. New Zealand dropped 2 last summer against Bangladesh and South Africa, which is crucial. And I think eventually will probably cost them being exactly where they want to be at the top. Yeah, this is done and dusted.
There's 6 on the table, currently at 39%, which means they've got 39% of the available points. Southey delivers, and down the leg side, Root doesn't catch up with it. So Australia are top of the pile on 75%. Then South Africa at 71.4, India 58, Sri Lanka 56, Pakistan 53, then New Zealand, the Windies, Bangladesh and England at the bottom of the pile on 12.5%. Yeah. From the 12 games they've played, England have played more matches than any other team out of the 9, so they won't be making the final 2.
England have lost points too, haven't they?
Yes, slow overrates. We've got 10 extra points on top of that, so that says a fair bit about where England are at. Root, the former captain, facing Southey. Nice carry through to the gloves of Blundell after leaving alone on the 4th stump line.
Pretty much New Zealand have to win every test match here and to actually have any chance of qualifying in the top 2, which is a big ask.
Well, they've played 6 test matches, and I suppose the fact that New Zealand seldom get 3, 4, 5 test match series, it's a real issue, I think, with scheduling. And we heard from Greg Barclay yesterday, the chairman of the ICC, speaking on the BBC, and he's painting a pretty pessimistic picture about Test cricket, full stop. And I can't say I enjoyed hearing much of it. Here's Southey to Root, passes the inside edge after looking to drive and doesn't carry to Blundell, so a bit of inconsistent bounce. Little win there for the bowler, something for Root to think about. But yeah, Greg Barclay made the
Well, not an unreasonable one, that the IPL is getting bigger and bigger, longer and longer, and trying to fit as many test matches in as we would like is getting harder and harder for host nations. And obviously the fact that most countries lose money when hosting tests is another factor in all of this. It's not great.
No, that disappoints me because we know how important and the value of test cricket, how important it is in the landscape.
Southey, 2 slips of gully, bowls to Root, defending from the crease. The other comment that he made was that he doesn't see women's test cricket really having a place. I'm being a bit reductive by putting it that bluntly, but that was the essence of what he said yesterday. That's at the very time when India want to play more women's test cricket. The entirety of the Australian team and the England team are singing from the same hymn sheet. It's a bit of a shame that New Zealand women haven't played one since 2003. Katie Martin, who retired a couple of weeks ago, was the only New Zealand woman who played a test match. It's remarkable to think that Susie Bates has ever had that opportunity. Might come back to that in the next over with Southey bowling the last ball of the 38th here and Root pushing out towards mid-off end of the over. England 105 for 4. SENZ Test Cricket for Razeen. The Paints Kiwis Trust.
The TAB Queensland Racing Carnival is where champions emerge. Over the years, legends like Might and Power, Black Caviar and Winx made their mark in the Sunshine State. Last year it was Zaki and Incentivize, and this year the tradition continues. Staged over 10 weeks with more than $21 million in prize money, including 8 Group 1s throughout the Stradbroke season. Everything you need to know is at QLDRacingCarnival.com.au. Queensland is racing. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.
Craig McMillan jumping out of the summariser chair. We'll hear from him later in the session. I'm rejoined by Jared Kimber, author, writer, filmmaker, does it all, statistician, occasional team analyst, unemployed periodically. Great having his insight throughout the week. We've got Bolts, Pavilion End to Stokes, who slaps again through the offside. The second time he's played that shot off Bolt in this brief stretch after tea. And the moment the Stokes struck the ball, he looked away dismissively to the leg side of the ground. He looks like a man on a mission suddenly. He moves along into the 20s. England 109 for 4.
Just outside is Jamie Cox, former New Zealand opener. Is he Tasmanian opener? Tasmanian opener. He's from an island. Is he MCC CEO?
He is.
I'm trying to remember what his job title is.
Should get him on. Bolt here to Stokes. That's Fuller and defended accordingly. Yes, Jamie Cox for a time was working at St Kilda Football Club.
South Australian cricket, then St Kilda.
Australian selector at one point.
Oh, he was too, yeah. Was he one of the paid selectors? Might have been just before then?
Yeah, you got me there, but he's had a very career in sports administration post his first class career at Tasmania, Somerset.
What would he have made? 60, 65 first class hundreds?
Oh, an absurd number for 0 test matches. Unjust. Speaks to the era he played in, I suppose. Here is Bolt again to Stokes, who's leaving alone outside the off stump. Just picking up that conversation I was having with Macca before he vacated the chair. Did you catch up with those comments from Greg Barclay yesterday?
No, I haven't seen those. Oh, wait a minute. Is that about only the main 3 teams are ever going to play tests again?
That was the number. I'm afraid to say that was that. When you say the main 3, you mean the big 3 that run the ICC. It was a fairly grim outlook.
Which is nonsense. It's just because Test cricket is run incorrectly and is on bilateral series. There's plenty of ways to make money off Test cricket.
Well, he's not a fan of the World Test Championship either. His previous comments. Bolt delivers into the guts of Stokes. That's whacked him up in the tummy, I fancy. We'll get a look on the Chemist Warehouse replay screen here. Yep, nipple. Might have even been the ribs. Either way, he was doubled over for a moment. But Ben Stokes being Ben Stokes, he's going to tough it out. Has a chat to Joe Root and returns to where he came from.
Hasn't rubbed it. He hasn't rubbed. If you get hit and you double over and then you don't rub it, do those negate each other on the manliness? Has he re-alphaed himself?
Oh yeah, that hurts.
He needs to spit now somewhere. Go back and bowl, son.
Oh yeah, that's high on the ribs too.
Upper ribs.
Bolt delivers. Fuller. Stokes forward defending, knows the call. Bolt threatens to throw it back at the batter. Good contest between this pair. Stokes has flayed him out through point for 2 boundaries since tee. But yeah, I think that
central thesis of Barclay is that, well, where will Test cricket fit if countries can't afford to host it, one? And two, if the Indian Premier League ends up as a, who knows? I mean, it's a Pandora's box at the moment with respect to the schedule. It could, I mean, it's at 10 weeks at the moment.
They can't afford to host it.
Here's Bolt to Stokes, outside part of the back, through the cordon, along the ground. AJ Patel works around for point, kicks it to 110 for 4 is the score. Stokes up to 24.
They can't afford to host it because it's on bilateral agreements, whereas if it's actually sold as one TV package, the hosting fees will come out of that TV package. I have to worry about that ever again, which means every cricket team could play and host Test matches.
Jared, continue that thought. We're going to be changing commentary. Daniel Norcross replacing me at the end of that over with the score at 110 for 4. Our coverage for Rosine that paints the Kiwis trust. We won't take a break. Stay with you, Jared.
So essentially, if you host a World Cup at the moment, you don't pay to host the World Cup. That is paid for out of the hosting fees of the World Cup because it's part of the TV package. We don't have that in Test cricket because these smaller boards didn't want it. They didn't want to lose the power, and now they're in a position where they might be able to. They're losing money on one form of cricket that they don't need to lose any money off because there's still plenty of money in Test cricket because middle-aged men with money like to watch it. Certainly do it. And here's one here. Hey, Daniel Norcross.
Right, Carl Jamieson's back in the attack. A key moment, perhaps, in this session. He's got figures of 3 for 24 from 9 overs. He took some crucial wickets before the tea break. Got Bairstow out. It's a sucker punch, really. He set him up nicely with 4 balls that just held the line or just slightly went away. And then the last ball of the over, the 7th ball of the over, because he bowled a no ball. It's been a tale of 2 no balls today. That no ball that allowed Bairstow to be bowled off the 7th ball as Stokes faces up and gets a short ball which he considers pulling and then pulls out of, and then the other no ball was delivered by Colin de Grandon when Ben Stokes played a shot that has to go down in the top 10 Hall of Fame for most clueless, brainless moments of cricket that England has ever produced, and that is saying something. Absolute lunacy as he came charging down the wicket and then tried to flat bat Colin de Grandon, got an under edge, smashed into his stumps, and he was virtually at pavilion steps when it was established that it was a no ball. So he was reprieved and he's still there. 110 for 4. Jamieson into him. He comes down the wicket and pulls through mid-wicket with no timing, as you'd expect, because he's in all sorts of, well, not really in a position to play the shot. He's going to get a couple of runs as it goes out to Ajaz Patel, running from square leg to deep mid-wicket. I don't know why he does this. He does it, I mean, cricketers will know. Is he doing it on numbers? Is it every 5 balls? Coming down the wicket to Kyle Jamieson. He's a very tall man. He's extracting some bounce and life out of this wicket. And when he sees him coming, he just puts it in a bit shorter.
Yeah, it seems odd. Makes sense. I disagree with the general principle of it, but I can't understand why he's doing it to Grandon.
Yeah, around the wicket, and that's left alone by Stokes. I entirely understand why he does it to slower bowlers. I understand why he tries to get down the wicket to try to take LBW out of the equation, but you're dealing with New Zealand's quickest bowler who's bowling from some height.
Maybe not the quickest. Well, would have him, wouldn't he?
Yeah, I guess, but you know, he's tall. He's bowling 84 miles an hour, and he's very tall.
He doesn't. I wouldn't say he's instantly chargeable.
But you know, I don't think when Kyle Jamieson comes on, I don't think the first thought is smash him back over his head.
No, the first one is that I'd like to be closer to this.
Yeah, no, exactly. Jamieson in again. That's Fuller dabbed into the onside of the pad by Stokes straight to mid-wicket. There's no run.
If only I could get a little bit closer to this guy with a bowling average of 18. Then I'd take him down.
And then if I could speed the ball up by making there be less distance between it leaving his hand and reaching me.
The only thing I can think of is that the length that he bowls to him might put him off. Because he has the ability to bowl very full, and he's thinking, well, if I come down occasionally, that might mess up his length.
I just think Stokes would be better off standing still, like all the best batters have done throughout history. Call me old-fashioned, as he punches off the back foot to the bowler. There's no run. I mean, we saw what Daryl Mitchell did yesterday. Before every ball, he took his guard, he raised his bat up in the air, he moved his back foot across, he looked down, he waited, he stayed completely still, he looked at the ball, and then, well, like 95 times out of 100, he either hit it or he left it.
I think if I'm facing a bowler of Carl Jamieson's skill, what I'm really thinking is, can I bobble my head around as much as possible?
Right. 2 slips of the gully, point extra as Stokes defends another ball on the pads back to the bowler. That is the end of the over. Stokes 26, Root 25, England 112 for 4.
$100 just for switching your internet provider? Mate. Switch your internet to Mate and enter the promo code MATE100 on sign up to get $100 credit on your account once connected. You heard right. Get $100 credit just for switching and connecting internet with Mate. Be quick, limited time offer. Visit letsbemates.com.au or search Mate online.
Credit applied 28 days after activation. Terms and conditions apply.
On SEN and SENZ. Lords, England 112 for 4 in pursuit of 277 in association with Resine, made in New Zealand for New Zealand conditions.
I've told you that's the wind in Wellington.
Yeah.
Paint needs to be stronger.
Oh, the salty ocean air.
Yeah.
And the piercing light that will fade the paint. I mean, as we know, that sunlight down there in the Antipodes, as Bolt comes around the wickets to Root, who flicks is fine. It's going to go down towards the boundary, but fine leg is quite fine. Carl Jamieson keeps it to just the 113 for 4. And I believe that in Queensland that a no ball has been signalled, so 114 for 4. Is it a no ball, or is it just moving the side
It might
screen?
have been moving the side screen. It looks like it's going a no ball, but I think he was just hopefully a run wasn't added to the total.
As it were, ladies and gentlemen, I don't think it was a no ball. In Queensland, which of course is absolutely insanely half an hour behind Adelaide. This makes no sense to me at all, owing to the fact that it is further east. And there's Bolt is in, sure. And that's been pulled quite fine. And Jameson again is in the action as he moves from long leg to fine leg to field. It is now 114 for 4. Did they not have a referendum on daylight savings time?
I don't know if it was a referendum, but they certainly.
Well, they wanted it to. They asked the people, would you like to be in the right time zone?
And they said no.
They said no, and I heard that it was for 2 reasons. It would confuse the cows.
That was mentioned.
I mean, cows, you don't tell the time.
Also,
right?
in South Australia, in New South Wales and Queensland, they share a border, so those cows.
I know. Defended by Root from the crease into the offside. And the other one I heard was that the extra sunlight would fade the curtains, which is the same amount of sunlight, ladies and gentlemen.
You have your curtains drawn more.
But when do you have them drawn more?
Look, I'm not defending this. I'm a big fan of daylight savings. And also in Queensland, it feels like it gets dark like it does in London in winter.
It gets dark at 6:30. Those enormous bats are flying around the Gabba when you're trying to do your video. It's not very nice. And they're vicious, those bats.
Colin de Grandhomme has a strained heel.
Strained heel? Yeah. My word. Like, I don't know how I could strain my heel. It's a thing that's quite solid.
I don't know if that's an Achilles.
Right. Here comes Bolt, defended again by Root. Just slightly on the walk back to the bowler. There's no run. That's 85.3 miles an hour, that delivery.
Anyway, shout out to our Queensland listeners.
Yeah, Queensland listeners, don't worry about the cows. They're not checking the time. And actually, what happens if you move the clocks forward?
I don't think Adelaide should be half an hour either. Just to go back on this.
Well, I know that's wrong as well, but the thing is, still, Adelaide should not be ahead.
It's not just Adelaide, it's Northern Territory as well, isn't it?
It shouldn't be ahead of Brisbane. Clipped into the onside this time, straight to short mid-wicket by Root. There's no run. You're all crazy in Queensland if you think it's a good idea. In summer,
very hot in Queensland, though. Like, if you live there,
you want it to get dark early.
I feel like at a certain point that it's like, do we need more sun? I know it's the same amount of sun. I understand that.
It's just whatever you call the time, you know? I think it's madness.
It's a big state. A lot of people. It's hot.
I get all of that. Bolton, Duran driving into the offside, but the ball comes off the inside half of the bat and squirts to mid-wicket. And Root gets away with a full shot there. He has 26. Stokes has 27. England 114 for 4.
Still hunting around for incredible value? Ditch the magnifying glass and check out the Kogan Money credit card. There's no annual fee, plenty of tantalising rewards, and if you meet the spend requirements, you could earn $400 in credit to spend on Kogan.com. So go on and make the switch to a great value credit card at koganmoney.com.au/radio.
Offer ends August 21. T's and C's, credit criteria, other fees and charges apply. Credit provider National Australia Bank Limited.
Welcome back. Test Street on SEN here at Lords. England 114 for 4. Don't miss the mornings with Ian Smith weekdays from 9 a.m. on SENZ. You couldn't have a better person to analyse the cricket each morning on the airwaves. Each morning, 9 a.m. 9 a.m. 9 a.m. Well, New Zealand, they have sensible time zones. I mean, they have light in the right way.
He doesn't want to, I mean, yeah, I can see that. Why would you want to do the 6 a.m. still?
Yeah, well, that's a bit early. Jameson in, and it's attempting to tuck the ball off his hip there, Stokes, and he's got very little on it. It's just plopped down in front of him, and there is no run.
Just don't pick up the ball.
No, make them come to you.
I just don't. At that point. So, you know, Faf du Plessis used to pick up the ball all the time. Do you know why?
No.
He had sweaty hands, and when teams were trying to get reverse, when teams were trying to get the ball to reverse, literally don't touch the ball. It's nothing to do with you. Let the other team tamper with it. That's the most Australian thing I've ever said.
Carl Jameson is in. Forward comes Stokes. Pushes off the front foot, back up the wicket. It's picked up at a mid-on position. Our New Zealand listeners can be fairly sure now. If they didn't know, Jared Kimber is an Australian.
No, but you know what I mean? You are preparing the ball alone. You are preparing the ball, legally or illegally, to try and get the best out of it. Faf and your sweaty hands.
Yep.
Put your shirt back on and stop touching my ball. He likes having his shirt off, Faf du Plessis, though.
He reminded me I was going to take my t-shirt off at some point, which will involve a bit of
like Surab Ganguly style.
Yeah, like that. There's Jameson around the wicket. Stokes has come down the wicket, no idea why, and pushed the ball into the offside, off the back foot, having got into a terrible tangle, because Carl Jameson, you see, is a highly skillful bowler who can see when a bowler has got themselves into an awkward position, and he then makes things more awkward for them. What is he doing, Jared Kimber?
So cricketers have all these different models. We don't have all the computers, all the information that we need at the moment, but we can basically tell what percentage of the time a ball will get a wicket, but eventually we'll be able to tell what percentage of the time a particular kind of shot will give runs or give a wicket, but we don't have the full. I'm assuming that there's a very low percentage of time that you're not outplaying that, whatever that was.
Jameson is in. That's tickled fine. That's going to go down towards the pavilion. It will be cut off. Stokes is running back for a second. The throw comes in from Bolt, but Stokes is safely home. Picks up a couple more runs and moves to 29. I think the 116 for 4. They've been starved of runs a little bit here, but while New Zealand are very, very much on top, this is a rare thing developing at the moment, an England partnership that might make it to 50. We've had one of them so far in this match. It was the first wicket of their first wicket of the first innings, which brought 59 runs. Well, these two have now put on 47. The ball is in the 42nd over as Jameson rolls in, and that's left alone by Stokes well, shouldering arms. And this is the point when batting started to get easier yesterday for Mitchell and Blundell. And England is just moving in, perhaps.
One difference, it was just the middle of the day with the sun out.
Yeah, that's true. The clouds that are away to my right, I think gently moving in that direction. The lights are still on, but the light has improved markedly over the last 20 minutes or so. as Jameson comes in to complete the over. Stokes waits and lets go. Another delivery outside the off stump. It flies through, whistles through to Blundell. End of the over. Stokes 29, Route 26. England 116 for 4.
The TAB Queensland Racing Carnival is where champions emerge. Over the years, legends like Might and Power, Black Caviar and Winx made their mark in the Sunshine State. Last year it was Zaki and Incentivise, and this year the tradition continues. Staged over 10 weeks with more than $21 million in prize money, including 8 Group 1s throughout the Stradbroke season. Everything you need to know is at qldracingcarnival.com.au. Queensland is racing. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.
Welcome back. Test cricket on SEN of Lords. England against New Zealand, the third day in association with Razine, the Pinch Kiwis Trust. It's going to be... I hope they send you some. Well, I actually do in my house at the moment. I could do with some.
I feel like you're going to end up being, their voiceover guy.
I'd love to be the voice of Razine. I don't know. I mean, how is an English accent taken in New Zealand? Is it seen as contemptible, or is it seen as... In America, you see, you get away with this, and suddenly, there are people flocking around you at bars asking to buy you a drink for no apparent reason as Bolt is round the wicket. That's pulled by Root. A really good diving stop. Oh, now then, Stokes got himself to trouble. He ran on the shot, and he's deflection off his bat, just as happened in the World Cup, but hilariously, the fielder... Now, who was the fielder down there?
Look at this.
Has stopped the ball, and everyone's having a huge laugh about this because it was almost exactly the same place as the famous World Cup extra 4 runs that effectively gave England the World Cup itself. And it's Stokes again trying to dive back into his ground. The throw came in, hit his bat, and deflected down towards the boundary, but it never quite got there, and the fielder made a big play of it. They all had fun, but everyone had fun. Everyone seems to be enjoying themselves. We're having a look on the Chemist Warehouse replay here. There was a fine shot, brilliantly fielded. Throw came in. It wasn't going to get him out. It's bounced off the bat, and then he's put his hand out. he's basically done exactly as he did in the World Cup. Bolt finds it very amusing. Stokes finds it even more amusing. I mean, so amusing, he's in danger of splitting his spleen. And we've all thoroughly enjoyed ourselves for the last minute and a half. That's great. In the end, there were no runs scored, just in case you're wondering. Now, the field has changed dramatically after that. Bolt is into Root, who defends, well, he keeps a little low. Let me try to describe it for you. There's a long leg, there's a deep square leg just in front of square, because there is what I'm going to call like a proper leg gully. It's like a short backward square leg, but I don't think he's walking in. I don't think he's catching backward square leg. Catching backward square leg, yeah.
They've had that a little bit for Root, especially when Bolt's been bowling to him. I think they think he likes to flick across. Well, I wondered if it was off the front foot, sort of. But yeah, it's an interesting position. But they've basically got 2 catches on the leg side, don't they?
Yeah, well, because there's another one which is a sort of slightly square, the normal mid wicket, and there's a slightly wider than normal mid on slip and a gully. Bolt in around the wicket. That is flicked away between those 2 fielders on the leg side and out to one of the others on the leg side. Jazz Patel, who's just in front of square on the deep square leg boundary, and Root gets off strike, moves to 27, 117 for 4, and the field will change again.
I remember Peter Siddle had a very similar field for Kevin Peterson in the 2015, that must be 2013 Ashes, whichever one Ashes that was, and apparently I think they had dueling sort of leg side catches, and Kevin Peterson kept saying, I'm just going to flick past them all day.
Bolt there to Stokes, who lets us go by to the gloves of the keeper. There's no run. Now, you wanted to say, during the break, you said you wanted to talk about the last 2 balls of Jameson's previous over.
So his bowling,
hurry.
The majority of the bowling in this test match so far has been wobble ball bowling, and because the ball is moving so far at the moment, they're really trying to do traditional swing, and Stokes left those last 2 balls. Had they gone straight, he would have been bowled twice. Instead, you can see it was traditional swing, which allowed him to leave the ball. That's the sort of confidence that a lot of modern batters don't have anymore because of the wobble ball.
Bolt in full, driven back past Bolt, but mid-off's able to get round to his left. Stopped the ball cleanly, 117 for 4. We've got 1 ball left in the over. Yeah, I see exactly what you're saying there.
So it's a It's a big change. That's a slight win for England. Although on top of that, did you not give me a stat before on how much the ball swung after?
Yes, 2.2 degrees after the 30th over, when it was 0.9 degrees before the 30th over. So New Zealand are extracting a fair bit of life out of this ball. I don't know whether it's the overheads perhaps, or just the skill of the bowlers. Last ball of the over, Stokes on strike, 3 slips in place. Bolt bowls on the pads and is driven crisply up to mid-on. That completes the over, route 27. Stokes 39, England 117 for 4.
Footy fans, the AFL Record has all your news and analysis. Read how the pieces in the Premiership puzzle are starting to fall into place for the Fremantle Dockers and their coach, Justin Longmuir. Enjoy weekly features like the Kids page and team lists, plus a special on Hawthorn Premiership teammates Luke Bruce and Liam Shields ahead of their milestone 250th game. Brought to you by 4 and 20, Australia's original fan food. The AFL Record Round 12 edition. Available on game day and still only $5.
DNZ Test Cricket, Henry Moran here alongside Jared Kimber, where England are 117 for 4. Ben Stokes and Joe Root building the sort of partnership we've only seen once thus far in this Test match, and it was the partnership we sensed and still yet may prove decisive, that between Mitchell and Blundell yesterday. Huge partnership that twisted this game towards New Zealand, but in Roots and Stokes there is hope for the home side. 117 for 4. In comes Jameson, left alone, keeps a little low outside the off stump by Root. The target is 277.
I think the big difference is by the time that the New Zealand partnership had put on around 50, the ball stopped doing kind of anything. The sun was out. England looked a little bit tired and jaded. You watch that last over from Jameson, the ball's still hooping around. There was one that kept low from Bolt in the last over as well. It feels a little bit more tasty. And then you've got the fact that there will be stumps and they might have to come back out again. So, but you're right. This is the second partnership of the game.
It's a lesser spotted good partnership. Yeah. Here comes Jameson, left alone by Root. It's seldom you see application, determination, grit from an England side, dare I say.
I mean, these are the two that you kind of expected from. I mean, you say application and grit. Occasionally, Ben Stokes has been running down the pitch trying to swat flies.
Depends what your application is.
Yeah, well, he's certainly applying something. We might need an ointment for it in the future, but yes, I think Root's batted really well. It's been much tougher conditions. It's really been quite tested.
In comes Jameson over the wickets, defended by Root with that high elbow once again. Keeps the pose.
We can see the foreshadows now.
We can.
I think this is way earlier than we saw lights last night.
Yeah. It is, but you don't sense that it's so dark as to threaten the play that we're going to get for the rest of this session. I've just actually been down to watch a bit of the game in the stand. Piers Morgan was knocking about down there as well.
Man of the people.
Very much so. Here comes Carl Jameson as Root waits and swivels, pulling that ball into the leg side. Nice shot, square of the wicket for 4 runs. The crowd roar Root as the former England skipper moves into the 30s. Trademark shot, really. And England moved to 121 for 1.
Yeah, I don't know if Jameson got that wrong, but almost from the moment that ball was hit, he held his hand out to Williamson to say, I want a man out there. In fact, I don't think it was that bad a ball. I think this is where they were trying to get Root out earlier, trying to get him sort of fending, maybe not fending, but pushing at that ball outside off stump. But this time Root just decided to pull it, which is a far better option. That might be telling you that again, the conditions are starting to settle down a little bit.
Jameson, who looked dangerous after lunch, is in bowling. Slightly quicker ball this time, which Root clips in front of square on the leg side. There's a chase for Conway running round from mid-on. And a couple more runs will be taken. England move forward to 123 for 4. The target 277. But it must be nice for Piers Morgan to actually see an audience, which is something unusual for the big man nowadays.
Unless he's been trolled for a production error or something. Yeah, all these people didn't even know there were still people in the world.
1, 2, 3 for 4. Here comes Jameson. Interval to Joe Root, who lets that go past the off stump. Through to the keeper. And that is the end of the over. The score 123 for 4. The target 277.
Download the SEN app from the Apple and Google App Stores. Then get set for all your big moments in sports.
Super Bowl 56. One of the all-time against the odds wins. Taken out of midair by the man with the golden hand.
Catch up on SEN-created podcasts, recreation, lifestyle, racing, and all of our SEN shows.
The Sounding Board.
Real Adventures Trailblazers. Late Australian lives. Plus, it's now available on Apple CarPlay. The SEN app, your home of sport, from wherever you are on the planet.
Welcome back to Lord's SENZ Test Cricket. Henry Moran alongside Jared Kimber as we watch a partnership building between Joe Root and Ben Stokes. The old skipper and the new, looking to try and give England the potential for victory, the very rare prospect of victory for this England Test side. 1 in 17 coming into this game. Not 1 for 5 series, as in comes Trent Bolt. Start of a new over. Stokes is happy just to push that ball towards the leg side. Worth remembering, Stokes was out early in his innings off a no ball.
I think there's going to be a couple of hurdles for England, even if they continue to bat so well. One is going to be the end of the day's play. The other one is going to be the second new ball might come at a bit of an awkward moment. And on top of that is the excessively long tail. But at the moment, at the very least, the way that Root played that last over, and it's been almost minutes since Stokes has run down the wicket, played a silly shot.
This is pushed gently once again up towards that fielder at some shortish mid-on. Well, yeah, it feels like he's just kind of chilled out a bit.
Yes, chilled out a bit. You know, I mean, Root scoring, especially in that last over, that he played that pull shot, but then also flicked the next ball when there was another slight error from Kyle Jamieson. Maybe takes a little bit more pressure off him as well. For a long time, Root was probably scoring slower than he normally would. In fact, both of them. It's not easy to score regularly on this pitch.
Here comes Bolt sprinting in again from the pavilion end. Oh, it was half an appeal for LBW, but it's rather retracted from the slip corner and keeper. Stokes getting in a little bit of a tangle as we look at the Chemist Warehouse replay. Angled in towards the left-hander. A little bit high, a little bit leg-side-ish.
Yeah, again, though, that's still movement off the surface. It's so consistent. I think it would be interesting to see if we see another bowling change from this end, because Jameson looked a little bit tired in his last over. And they don't have the extra seamer now. And so whether they go to Ajaz Patel for a little while there's still that little bit of movement in the air.
In comes Trent Bolt, and that's left alone by Stokes, who raises the bat high above his head.
This is going to be a long session, isn't it? How much? Have we just got an extra half an hour? I'm trying to remember when we had tea.
So we still have another hour and 40 of the session to go, light permitting. I mean, in theory, there could be even 30 minutes beyond that, should we be in a position to finish this game.
Yep.
But the way things are shaping up, it doesn't feel that way.
It's a long time for England to bat. It's a long time for anyone other than Mitchell and Blundell to bat, really, in this particular test match. But yeah, missing that fourth seamer might prove crucial in a long session.
Bolt bowling to Ben Stokes, who just paddles that ball around the corner. I think has a little word with keeper Blundell behind the stumps as he trots through for 1. 124 for 4 now. The target is 277. We're approaching halfway there for this England side. New Zealand, well, they're close to halfway there in terms of taking the wickets they need to win the game. It's finely poised.
Yeah, no, definitely. If it wasn't for the fact that you and I had spent a lot of our life watching England play, we would think this was a really even match. Whereas we're sitting here waiting for the flurry of wickets to happen and end this quickly. But two best batters at the crease by a considerable distance. The ball should stop swinging soon, although it started swinging more, so I can't explain that. One bowler is down. Especially de Grandhomme would be very handy at this point because the ball is hooping. That's when he's at his absolute best as a bowler. You would be able to get through 4 or 5 overs, not to mention the fact that he should have had Stokes if he had a longer heel on his shoe.
Here comes Trent Bolt, into Bolt to Joe Root, leaving it alone. Decent carry through to Blundell, who takes the ball in front of his cap, and the over comes to an end. 45 have been bowled in this innings, so if he's not thinking about the new ball, you've got some time to wait for that. 124 for 4 is the England score. Their target is 277.
The TAB Queensland Racing Carnival is where champions emerge. Over the years, legends like Might and Power, Black Caviar and Winx made their mark in the Sunshine State. Last year was Zaki and Incentivize, and this year the tradition continues. Staged over 10 weeks with more than $21 million in prize money, including 8 Group 1s throughout the Stradbroke season. Everything you need to know is at QLDRacingCarnival.com.au. Queensland is racing. Gamble responsibly. Call 1-800-858-858.
For 4, as we see a finely poised test match with England needing 153 runs to win, New Zealand requiring 6 wickets. The big wicket is Joe Root, but the England former captain, Jared Kimber, is out there receiving a little bit of attention from the England physio. I've just seen he's had what looked like a couple of pills of painkiller to try and ease something. Whatever that is, it's not immediately obvious because I can't think of an incident that has seen him struck in the last half an hour or so.
They had a conversation. I didn't really see him touch, physio touch Joe Root particularly, so I'm not sure that. And now he spent almost as long, the physio, talking to the umpire. I'm not sure if that's just some personal health issues or.
Do umpires get a physio?
I think the umpires usually get the one of the teams usually runs out.
Right. Jared, thank you very much to you for the time being. I'm very pleased to say that you're ready and waiting to join us. New Zealand great Jeremy Coney, complete with his red notebook. He's grabbing a seat alongside me as in comes Kyle Jamieson around the wicket to bowl to Ben Stokes, who defends into the leg side, and there is no run. The floodlights beaming down, a gentle murmur around Lords, occasional little clink of champagne glasses around the ground. Jeremy Coney, hello to you. How are you?
Good, Henry. I'm very good, thank you indeed. Yes, well, lights on. Now, Jamieson bowling, probably New Zealand's most dangerous bowler, would you say, from this innings? He hasn't had a great year, and this is probably one of his better performances, actually.
Sprinting in now past the umpire. Ben Stokes is forward, firmly in defence. Love watching him bowl, though.
Yeah, because so tall, difficult for balance, so he's got to get that stride right. I'm not sure about the one slip. I think he really needs 2. There'd be nothing worse as if one went through wide of that, and I noticed that one just swung away from Stoke. Quite hard to do that from coming around the wicket and get it to go at the batsman and then move away. It tends to just straighten a bit, but you certainly don't want it to go through the cordon.
Jamieson in, and forward comes Stokes, clattering the ball away through the covers for 4. He's done that a few times this innings, advancing down the track. Most times he's missed it. This time, a big meaty piece of that blade makes contact with the ball, and it rushes away towards the grandstand. 128 for 4. Stokes moves to 34.
Yeah, you don't want to be. If he's going to charge, you don't give room outside the off stump. He's just set up for the sort of the slash, the slog. You know, it's a cross-bat stroke. I'd like to get it up into his feet. Don't let him see it. The shorter you go, the more he can see the ball.
Big swing, almost finds the edge this time. Stokes on the aggressive front foot this time, but he misses.
Well, he's still in by the skin of a, Colin de Grandon boot. But I don't know. I just got the feeling he was a better player. I mean, why not value his orthodox play? I'm good enough to get runs without doing it all this way? Because most unusual. Henry, have you seen him bat like this before in a test?
What's odd, when you think about his two iconic innings for England, both in 2019, the World Cup final here in Headingley a few weeks later. In comes Jameson, and Stokes lets that go, flying through to Blundell. And on both occasions when he went unorthodox, there was reason for it, i.e. World Cup final, run rate, loss of wickets in that final test, or in that test match at Headingley in the final innings. And so he had to sort of go for it and get on with it. Whereas here, he's got arguably the world's in-form batter at the other end. So why the rush?
Yeah, I don't understand that either. And plenty of time.
Well, yes.
Plenty of time.
2 and a bit days. Stokes waits for Jameson. And it's a very loose delivery down the leg side. Nothing Blundell can do. It trundles its way down towards the boundary. Third fine leg. And that one really was not the radar he was looking for. And it goes down to the ropes. It is signalled wide as well, so it'll be 5 onto the total. Freebie for England, 129 for 4th.
Yes, certainly the radar was off there, wasn't it? But look, virtually another 35 overs to go. And so that's how much this ball has to have, unless it can change and get out of shape. So loads of time for England. They can get another 100 runs quite comfortably at that time without taking any risks.
Stokes waiting, almost playing on. Inside half of the bat into the pad, he gets a little fortunate as the over comes to an end. 133 for 4, England chasing 277.
Go on, make the call. We all believe in you. One at a time, please. Thousands of Aussies keep switching to Kogan Mobile. But hurry right now. You can get started with Kogan from just $2.90 for 30 days. With unlimited calls and texts and a big 20 gig of data at award-winning prepaid prices. Make the call. Switch to Kogan Mobile from just $2.90 for the first 30 days at koganmobile.com.au/radio.
SENZ Test Cricket with Rosine, the Pates Kiwis trust. At Lords, 133 for 4 is the score. Win predictor. Always a useful guide, if not exact. Sees, first up, Trent Bolt. That's Joe Root. Ease that one outside the off stump and through to the keeper. Win predictor has New Zealand as favourites, 63%.
Well, from the point of view that this is the major partnership remaining for England. After, yes, I'm not trying to downplay Foakes, but it's not quite the same as Root or Stokes. And then after that, it does fall away. No Wokes there, no Curran, those kinds of players.
2 slips in the gully weight, and that's chased by Root. He was trying to play that back foot push through the offside, and he gets a little bit fortunate because it was not far away from that outer half of the bat.
Yeah, just a little piece of cricket like that and a fine edge, and the game, I think, would really change at that point. So New Zealand just have to keep trying and trying to piece together bits of cricket like that. I mean, that's a poor stroke from Root, really loose stroke after being in for so long. And I suppose it's of good news. You see, look at the faces on the New Zealanders. They can't believe that, how he missed that.
In comes Bolt. This is more cautiously played into the leg side by Root, who is not going to risk anything there. And I can see Trent Bolt on the replay talking about saying something about a frog by the looks of things.
Yes.
133 for 4, 277 is the target.
I think there was a plague of them around that time. That same ball, they all came together.
Yeah, extraordinary luck that Ben Stokes has against New Zealand, isn't it?
Is it? I don't. Is it? I mean, has it been more than those ones that we saw?
Here comes next delivery. Root tries to help it round the corner, down towards the keeper it goes, who half stops it with a run through for a bye. 134 for 4, a target 277. Well, the obvious ones, the World Cup final, 2 occasions. Today he's had some fortune with de Grandhomme getting his wicket but overstepping.
Well, I suppose that was a New Zealand problem, wasn't it? Really, it wasn't just that it happened that particular ball.
But he hadn't been overstepping, given that umpires are checking this upstairs.
No, that's right.
It was a rare occasion to have done so. Here comes Trent Bolt, and Stokes is leaning on it, pushing into the offside. 3 slips waiting as a point. Fielder at short cover, mid-off, mid-on, square leg, fine leg.
He's always given me the feeling too that once he gets in over a period of time, he becomes more and more dangerous. And now that's nearly 100 balls that Stokes has faced now for the 30. It's not a great strike rate, is it, for him? But, he suddenly bursts out of,
He can change gears quickly, as we've got that Headingley innings. He was, the night before it all happened, he was going really slowly. Here comes Trent Bolt, then final ball of the over. It's pushed off the pads down towards fine leg. Jameson will run round with these long strides to pick up. 1 run is taken. 135 for 4 is the score. The target, 277. In a moment, we'll be joined once again here on SENZ by Adam Collins.
Hi, it's Adam Liao. Australian Made Week kicks off on the 6th of June. And it's time to celebrate and support our local makers and growers all around the country. Buying authentic Aussie products with the Australian Made logo helps boost our economy, supports local business, and creates jobs right across Australia. So, look for the famous green and gold logo and buy something genuinely Aussie this Australian Made Week. Because Australian Made makes Australia.
Adam Collins with Jeremy Coney. Resine, made in New Zealand for New Zealand conditions. England on the cusp of being halfway there. They're 135 for 4. They've got 142 to go. They've got 2 relatively set men. Root looking the more settled of the 2, but Stokes ahead by a couple of runs. He's 35. The former captain's 33. Now just 2 in the cordon. Unusual through this game. A wide second slip and a 4th slip. Jameson around the wicket to Stokes, who leaves it through. Henry mentioned before that Headingley innings, Stokes at one stage was 3 from 51 balls when they went to bed that night. He was able to shift gears spectacularly towards the end. It's turning into a compelling struggle, isn't it? I mean, there's that sense.
Well, he did that in the final here too, didn't he? He batted a long time before he started to really attack. And even when he did, there was a bit of luck when Bolt caught him down at the far end there and stood on the rope.
Goodness me. What a day that was. Jameson to Stokes, who jumps forward before playing with a straight bat. It ends up behind point with a degree of control. So whatever works for you, Ben. He's 36. He played that ball from a foot outside leg stump. 136 for 4.
And it's taken a thick outside middle and run behind point. It wasn't as if he was really looking to run it there. I mean, if you got to find one, of course, you'd run that into the stumps.
It's what we spoke about off air a moment ago. What happens in a scenario like that if Jameson gets at Yorker length? I mean, he's going to fall over, go anywhere.
Well, I think if anything, when he sees people moving, it is kind of moving around for Jameson because he's adjusting. And I think you're right. You just got to fire it in and go at the stumps.
I wonder how many overs Jameson will bowl in this spell too. It's the 5th of it. 8 earlier.
How many has Bolt bowled in this spell?
I'll check on that.
Okay.
Back to 2 slips in the gully with Root on strike. He's 33. Jameson bowls. Root from the balls of his feet. Places it down to point, no run. Yeah, other point that Henry picked up on there about the front foot no ball being monitored. I spoke to a TV director about this recently, but the third umpire, in theory, is monitoring that front line every delivery.
Really?
In practice,
do you think so?
Right. Chatting to someone behind the scene, in practice, what's happening is there's a in the truck, the person who's responsible for overseeing that camera, they're doing it, and they're giving a heads up to the umpire when it's close. Jameson pulls out and run up here, go back and do it again. So it isn't.
I think they certainly do it when there's a wicket.
Absolutely, which is kind of what I was going to go on to say. That when there's a wicket, they're like, well, we better just double check. Now, we occasionally are seeing front foot no balls called, and a few in this match, but yes, do we think the behaviour has shifted to such an extent since they
went to the third umpire doing it? I don't know. Jameson bowls and Root tries to get it off his hip, but it ends up with Blundell via the thigh pad. The score remains 136 for 4, the target 277. But yeah, I found that interesting. I think the reluctance from the ICC to roll that out for about 5 years then, after they first trialled it in 2016, was that, to be blunt, the umpires didn't fancy it. They didn't really enjoy the idea of spending their day toggling on the front line, and not unreasonably. I think that they hadn't quite ironed out the process, and then obviously they've collaborated with TV and found a solution. It's kind of a halfway house with TV collaborating with the umpire when they think it might be overstepping. But the point I'm slowly getting to is Jameson bowls forward. This time Root backs out, so Jameson didn't make it the first time, and then just when he was about to load up and deliver, Root pulled out quickly, and they'll have a third attempt at this penultimate delivery of the 48th over. Is that it's actually not an umpire. He's watching that front line.
I don't like that.
Yeah, it's a bit.
I'm sorry. You want a third party that's not attached in any way to either of the sides.
Yeah.
Who's responsible for the coverage here?
The host broadcast is Sky.
Sky. So that's English.
Right. Yeah. Okay. I take your point. Yeah.
Sky BBC. I mean, that's what it was.
Jameson bowls off the back foot, punching hard to point, no run there.
And I'm not suggesting that they would necessarily cheat.
Yeah, of course not. No.
But that is open. That's a possibility.
Yeah, certainly in the competition where this got explained to me, it wasn't international cricket, it was a domestic comp. But nevertheless, the idea that when the front line's being watched, that, yeah, I mean,
it should be part of an umpire panel or whatever. Put someone there perhaps who's an umpire here somewhere or something like that, and he looks at that for a while.
I mean, the solution that I think might be there for all use of technology is having specialist TV umpires. I'll come back to that after this delivery from Kyle Jameson. It's the last ball of the over. All the lights on at Lords. Root playing with a straight blade down the track end of the over. 48 gone, 136 for 4. Our coverage for Razine, the Paints Kiwis Trust.
Footy fans, the AFL Record has all your news and analysis. Read how the pieces in the Premiership puzzle are starting place for the Fremantle Dockers and their coach Justin Longmuir. Enjoy weekly features like the kids page and team lists, plus a special on Hawthorn Premiership teammates Luke Bruce and Liam Shields ahead of their milestone 250th game. Brought to you by 4 and 20, Australia's original fan food. The AFL Record Round 12 edition, available on game day and still only $5.
Adam Collins with Jeremy Coney. England have made it to 136 for 4. This partnership now on to 67 from 169 deliveries. We're having one of these impromptu drinks breaks by the looks of things. Or is that Joe Root receiving attention again? I think it might be. I'll get my binoculars over the back here. Joe Root is with what looks to be the England physio. We're obscured. We're behind Joe Root, but this is the second time he's received some attention. Jared thought it might have been a headache just because he took some tablets.
It's the hand.
So it's the hand.
I was looking at the hand.
Yeah, it's the hand on the TV camera. So we're going to see spin from AJ Patel. He had 9 runs taken from the one over he set down before tea. The only over the left arm orthodox has bowled before the match. While we're waiting just to build on that idea, I think the simple solution, and we see it in a number of sports with a bunker of sorts. Why can't we have a group of specialist TV umpires whose only job is to interpret technology? And that's not me in any way discrediting on-field umpires and when they are asked to be the third umpire, simply that job that they become expert at to be on the elite panel is one job out in the middle, 22 yards. Interpreting technology with freeze frames isn't kind of their gig. It's something they've learned retrospectively. They've learned after the fact. So I wonder whether the answer might be having a group of 8 or 10 TV umpires who do every international game. At least there'd be some consistency as well. We wouldn't be complaining about the application of technology as we often do, and that third umpire role could include monitoring the front line.
Yep.
AJ Patel, new spell, short leg and a slip, bowling at Stokes on 36. Who goes back and defends down the pitch. AJ does well to save a run. Committed fielding, diving across in front of, the man charging in from long on, no single.
Well, this is interesting. There are men outside and right on the boundary on the leg side. That won't
if he gets hold of it, Stokes.
And Jesse Stokes sweeping out towards square leg, and for the second time against the spinner, he's popped him into the grandstand. In the one over before tea, Stokes did that from the third delivery of the over. This time it's taken him only two as the sun comes back out here at Lords. And, well, Stokes has a plan. He's going to go hard at the spin. He moves to 42. England, 142 for 4.
Yeah, and so the line really has to be watched quite closely from Ajaz Patel. Can he bowl an arm ball that goes away from him here?
Delivers here. Stokes lunges down, dances down before defending. Well, this could be a fascinating couple of overs.
It's worth a go, and it's worth a go now before the totals get really close.
Ajaz, short approach, passes umpire Gough, bowls to Stokes, who sweeps again, out towards deep mid-wicket. That is even bigger. They go beyond the halfway mark in style. Stokes is in 3 sixes, all from the turn of Ajaz Patel, all into the grandstand. He's 48. It's now 148 for 4. Game on.
Well, the game is certainly on. There's no doubt about that. But it's just Ajaz Patel. I'm not sure to Stokes. It's not a huge boundary for Ben Stokes there. And even if he cloths it a bit, he's going to get that over the boundary.
Well, that's a good point. This is the short boundary.
Yeah.
Normally they play one pitch over for the test match at Lords. It's 1 over this week. It's only a few yards difference, but not for nothing either. Stokes can load up in that direction. 2 out that way. Ajaz Stokes goes again through everything. So close to the off stump. It'll be 4 byes. A very expensive over for New Zealand. That was inches away from the off bail. Up comes the 150 for New Zealand, for England rather, 152 for 4. And there's still another delivery left in this over. There have been 2 sixes and a 4, so 16 from it. Wow.
Yeah, well, just a little bit of untidy cricket coming there from the keeper as well. It's beaten the bat this time, and really he's got nowhere near it, has he? That's just turned and bounced just a little bit.
Yeah, it was more the bounce than the turn that did.
You've got to get something across and get onto that. Come on, Blundell. Get across. Cover it.
So Patel having to wait so long to bowl, he's had 21 taken from 1.5 overs. To finish here, Stokes goes back and takes 1 to retain the strike and move to 49 down towards long on. 17 runs from the over. England move along to 153 for 4. They're 124 runs away from their target of 277. SENZ Test Cricket for Razine, made in New Zealand for New Zealand conditions.
Does Kennards make trade easy? Kenoth. Is iced coffee liquid gold milk straight from the udders of heaven? Kenoth. Do tradies deserve special treatment like a 2-hour delivery promise, equipment swap and service on site, an express load and go service, and heaps more at their local Kennards high-up branch? Kenoth! Head to your closest branch to get the trade easy experience.
Gosh, those 2 big sixes, we got to see them back on the Chemist Warehouse replay screen between overs. He made fantastic contact. So we've seen Stokes at his worst earlier today, and that's some of Stokes at his best.
And that's where Patel has got to vary his pace. He can't just keep getting faster and faster. He's got to vary the pace of the ball.
Jamieson the Stokes on 49, and he will move to 50 with a punch off the back foot through point. At least 2. Might have the legs to go all the way for 4. Diving effort. Stopping the ball just as it was about to reach the rope. He comes back for 3. And Ben Stokes reaches a half century. He's on 52. His first game as full-time captain of this test team. And after a skittish, bizarre start to his innings, reprieved on 1 by Colin de Grandhoff's front boot. That's his 27th half century to go with 11 tons for England in Test cricket. And, well, he's taken them into a pretty good position given this pair came together when the score was 69 for 4.
Yeah, he's played some clean strokes, and to be fair, he's played some pretty ugly frenetic ones as well. But however, the result is the same. He's still there. He's still on 50 odd for for his team, and he's still giving them a chance to go through and take this test match.
And that was declared a boundary after the fact. The Chemist Warehouse replay screen showed the knee was touching the rope as the ball was touching the hand, and so Stokes is back on strike on 53. His fourth four, 3 sixes. On strike to Jameson. In behind it, defending here. That was a nice shot to start the over too, just transferring pressure back onto the big quick, forcing him behind point. He's found an extra gear. Suddenly an absorbing, compelling final session here on Saturday afternoon. The lights are on, the sun's out too. Lots of people still here. Why would you leave? This test is on a knife edge. Jameson has 2 catching men in the cord, the second slip and a fourth slip. A deep point now out for Stokes. Bowls around the wicket. Stokes comes onto the front foot, pushes out just behind point, no single. 26 overs in theory left today, Jeremy. They won't get that many, and they might get 21 or 22.
Getting over fives. Yeah. Fives would take them there, wouldn't it, really? So, almost. And get close enough that you might want to play the extra half hour. Yeah. So, but I can't see them quite getting that unless Patel keeps bowling to Stokes, really. But even to Root. Root is a very good player of spin bowling. England, and I don't think it's worth it.
Sorry, Jeremy. England have just gone ahead in Whitbiz. Stokes dancing and slapping through the offside straight to the man at deep point who was positioned there earlier in the over. Stokes looking to score off every ball. Here is 54, 158 for 4 the score. 2 left in this over. That has come up with a graphic on the screen for Chemist Warehouse that Whitbiz is not perfect, but it does a job. England are up to 52. They've been well behind on that measure through the afternoon until now.
Well, Jameson's just got to work out where does he go when Stokes advances and goes outside legs dump. I think it's full outside off, so he can't reach that for a start. And then if it's an out swinger that comes into Stokes, he run the risk of getting bowled off stump as well.
Root's turn, back on strike. Couple of slips now. Jameson to him. Turns him into the onside. Easy run. Suddenly the board's ticking over with great regularity for England. Root up to 34, 159 for 4. The target 277. Back to Stokes. One-day cricket there. New Zealand need a spark, just as England did this morning. When we arrived today, Jeremy, in our preview, we said that,
and yesterday afternoon. We're seeing a pattern emerge in the 3 days that the second session is better for batting, and so is the third.
So Jameson to finish to Stokes. Tries to lift it over the slip. He's gone caught behind. Tried to lift it over the wicketkeeper Blundell. Instead, placed it straight into his gloves at the splice of the bat. And just when England went ahead in this test match, Stokes is walking off for 54. And he's mortified. He drops his bat on the turf before trudging off. 159 for 5 the score. And just when New Zealand needed something, it's Jameson again. He has a 4th wicket. Twists and turns every session here at Lord's, Jeremy Coney.
This one's closer, much closer this time. And let's wait and see on just before he gets off the ground. Well, let's wait and see if anything else happens for Ben Stokes. It's happened a few times against the Kiwis. But certainly it's the curious stroke play in the end that has got him out. And it's not the orthodox stuff at all. There's still 150 odd behind. Now you see it starts to change. Root now has to start to do some things.
Well, 118 runs from here, but I mean, this is again, we said in almost the cricket earlier in the over, looking to score off every ball, place the ball around the field. That was an ab shot. That's a T20 shot that Stokes has played to finish. Now, if it comes off, well, so be it. But there was a huge degree of risk
to play the stroke.
Too close. It was premeditated. Premeditated shot, just as it was when Stokes was out and reprieved earlier today, the premeditated dance and slap. And Ben Folkes walks out. He's been in a rut of late, both in the Caribbean and out cheaply in the first innings. So as you say, Joe Root, the responsibility, as it is so often, is on his shoulders.
And this is the time now where New Zealand flows in. When teams, good sides, pragmatic sides, sides that have got resilience, come and they're presented with a situation to change the game. That's happened now, that there is a change in the game, a definite one, that they close in and hone in on Folkes and they stop him scoring easy runs, they put pressure on him, they try and get him out, keep Root away from, let Root stand down the other end and not even face the bowler. Leave him alone up there and he can feel very lonely, and that's exactly what they want to do. They don't want him facing the majority of the deliveries now. And so pressure on Folkes, just really hone in on him and make sure that the choices of the bowlers are good. The bowlers are concentrating for the next half an hour or so, next 5 or 6 overs. They close in and really swamp Folkes so that he can't get away, doesn't feel easy. And really, that's what a good side would do, and keep Root away from the match.
So Ben Folkes walks in at a crucial moment in this test match. It's his first test at home. They're taking the drinks break still. Some 70 minutes to go on this third day. We'll take a quick break on SENZ Test Cricket with Daniel Norcross about to replace me in commentary. Our coverage is for Resine, made in New Zealand for New Zealand conditions, with England 159 for 5.
June 8 is First Responder Day. Write a message of support on social media or say thanks in person. Share your message by using the hashtag. Visit the Gratitude Gallery, bankafirstresponder.com.au.
From AFL to NRL, A-League to horse racing. For all the big moments, expert commentary and the latest breaking news, when it happens in sport, SEN has you covered. Find your channel on the SEN app today.
Welcome back. Test Cricket on SEN. Across the SEN network, you join us at a pivotal moment. There have been so many pivotal moments in this test match, but another one as an act of brainlessness from England's captain. He got away with an earlier act of brainlessness against Colin de Grandon, but here, off the last ball of Kyle Jamieson's 6th over of this spell, he has attempted, for some reasons known only to himself, to ramp a short ball over the keeper. He'd been playing vigorously. He'd just smashed 2 sixes off Ajaz Patel. He'd whacked the ball into the offside down the deep backward point. He was getting going, he was getting in a rhythm, but that is a low percentage shot. It's a really tough one to pull off against a bowler like Kyle Jamieson. And he's looked to ramp it, he's got a little glove, it's gone through to the keeper. And for England, from a position of actual relative strength in this match, for the first time in quite a while, they were ahead on Winvis, for example. Only another 108 required for victory, and a long, strong partnership developing against an old ball in conditions that are getting easier. And now right under the pump as Bolt starts a new over into Joe Root, who pushes in defence into the offside. It's picked up in the gully region. The new batter, Folkes, has come in, and then after that, there is a most fragile of tails. Jeremy Coney, can you make sense of that?
No, but he's been playing in such an unorthodox way for part of his innings, a large part early on to de Grandon, got himself out, was reprieved, and then he's been also charging down outside the leg stump to Jamieson and playing cut shots and so on. That one was too close to him and not high enough.
Brought in, and Root pushes into the huge gap at the offside and takes a single on offer. New Zealand won't mind that because they've got Ben Folkes now, the new bat to bowl at 160, for 5, Root to 35.
So what the shot was not.
Well,
and he tried to. Well, I'm just saying he was trying to invent it, and create it. So more of a T20 shot, really. But you can't ramp a ball when it's down. Underneath. He tried to get up and try and get it up and then create height himself, and that's actually therefore his hands had to go up. And that's why it hit his hand and his glove, and has gone through to the keeper. So
it's well bowled from James, because he knows that Stokes is shimmying about, doing all sorts of things. So he's stuck it up his nose. But you don't have to score off every ball, do you? No. There's a long way to go in this day. Well, there isn't now. Bolt in and playing at that is Folks having a little nibble to a shortish ball angle to cross him. Lucky not to get an edge. Take a look on the Chemist Warehouse replay. Definitely played at that. Definitely played at that. Goodness me. This has been a game which has seen two batters play really, really well for New Zealand, Mitchell and Blundell. And I would say we've seen Root play pretty well for England.
But not with such the same freedom.
No, not the same freedom. Ball's in. And it's a thick edge. It squirts away to backward point for Folks. He'll get one. Thinks of about a second. It isn't there. Loud call. No, you probably heard through our effects, Mike. It's off the mark and underway. 161 for 5. But although Stokes got England's first half century, I spent most of his innings wondering why he was playing the way he was playing.
I don't think anyone has got an answer for that. It's the most extraordinary innings I've seen Folks play. I've seen him start very quietly and organised way and defend.
Yeah.
He's shown that. And then suddenly break the game open, as he did in the 2019 World Cup, for example, as he did against Australia at Headingley. He batted for a long time. 3 of 51 balls.
Yeah. But with composure and from the crease, not dancing around, not coming down the wicket. It's a bafflement. Bolt into Root, who pushes backward of square on the offside, a shorter ball, gets another single. 3 singles in this over so far. Root goes to 36. The clouds have lifted completely. It's a lovely evening. I say lovely evening. It's not particularly warm. It's a little bit of a wind out there, but it's not easy for New Zealand's bowlers now. The pitch has got no demons in it. The ball is 51 overs old nearly. And once there was a partnership there between two very experienced players, they could have made a massive dent on this 115 left to win tonight. Yeah, we'll come back tomorrow with wickets in hand and still no new ball available. And instead, our wicket has been gifted to New Zealand, and they are more than back in this game now. They were a wicket away from a tail that will not wag, one wouldn't think, as Folks drives down the ground nicely, full face of the bat. It's running up towards the pavilion. They've turned for a second, and that's all it will be. So at the end of the over, England 164 for 5.
Footy fans, the AFL Record has all your news and analysis. Read how the pieces in the Premiership puzzle are starting to fall into place for the Fremantle Dockers and their coach, Justin Longmuir. Enjoy weekly features like the Kids page and team lists, plus a special on Hawthorn Premiership teammates Luke Bruce and Liam Shields ahead of their milestone 250th game. Brought to you by 4 and 20, Australia's original fan food. The AFL Record Round 12 edition. Available on game day and still only $5.
Welcome back. Test cricket on SEN in partnership with Razine, the Paints Kiwis Trust. England 164 for 5. Let's take a look at these bowling figures here. Tim Southey's bowled 39 overs, none for 28. Kyle Jamieson is about to start his 16th over. I'm not sure he would have done had he not taken a wicket off the last ball of his previous over, gifted to him by Ben Stokes. He's got 4 for 50. Trent Bolt's bowled 17 overs. There's no Colin de Grandon out there. He's got a strained heel. Daryl Mitchell's bowled just the 1 ball, and Ajaz Patel just the 2 overs as Jamieson comes in, bowls back of a length ball, which is just pushed back up the wicket. Fields off his own bowling. There's no run. Route 36. Folks, the new batter's just started his innings. He has 3. It's been an incredibly entertaining test match, but from the point of view of people who've watched a lot of test cricket, and you, Jeremy, probably watched more than anybody in this building at the moment, it feels like we've really watched test cricket for about 3 or 4 hours yesterday.
Yes, I'm afraid there's an element of truth in that.
Jamieson is in outside the off stump through to the keeper. There's no run.
An awful lot of loose stuff, which I guess it's been quite a long time. When did England last play test cricket?
It's the West Indies.
Oh, okay.
March.
Well, New Zealand's 7 months.
Yeah, it's a long time for that. They haven't played county championship.
No, they haven't.
Others have.
No. And New Zealand look a bit underdone, to be honest. They're not normally as loose as August. They don't give wickets away quite so quickly as we've seen in clumps and clusters
Jameson runs in from the nursery and Root is able just to manufacture this ball into a wide open space on the leg side. Mid-on move to his right to field, 165 for 5. And Root moves to 37. Brings Folks on to strike.
3 balls remaining, so here's a chance for Jameson. He's now, this is his 16th over, so he's bowled quite a heavy workload out of the 51 that have been bowled. I hope that he's fit. I hope that he's rearing to go, and I hope after 4 wickets at the moment he's wanting to push himself onward here, because New Zealand certainly need him. He's, with de Grandon gone, then Mitchell might have to be used. It doesn't look as if until perhaps Root goes, I think Patel is not quite the option yet.
Jameson is in and Folks defends solidly off the front foot. There's no run. It'll be a bit easier for Patel though now that Stokes isn't there.
You're right-handers, but having said that, I think Root is a wonderful player of spin bowling. He'll get those little series of sweeps that he's got and turns and waiting for the ball outside his off stump to work it out there. So, I just think it's still a bit of a risk at the start. If they're going to bowl him, they've got to bowl him now, not closer to the end.
While Folks is new to the crease, might be an idea. Jameson in with 2 slips and a gully, and Folks pushes into the offside. There'll be no run. He goes straight to Patel. But getting rid of Stokes, though, has done a couple of important things. It's not just the wicket. England have been scoring quite rapidly in the 3 or 4 overs that preceded that. And what that meant was that if they continued in that sort of vein, well, there wouldn't be a second new ball for New Zealand. Or if there was, it would be with England within very, very close to the target. Now with Folks in, Folks is not a fluid batter. He's not going to score runs quickly. He's certainly not going to score runs quickly tonight. That's going to depress England's scoring rate. It's just going to give more options to New Zealand. If they can't get his wicket with this ball, as he comes forward in defence and works into the onside, they might stand a chance of a clatter of them tomorrow in different circumstances. That is the end of the over. England 165 for 5.
Does Kennards make trade easy? Ken Oath. Is iced coffee liquid gold milk straight from the udders of heaven? Ken Oath. Do tradies deserve special treatment like a 2-hour delivery promise, equipment swap and service on site, an express load and go service, and heaps more at their local Kennards Hire branch? Ken Oath. Head to your closest branch to get the Trade Easy experience.
Welcome back. Test cricket on SEN at Lords here in association with Resine, the paints Kiwis trust. It's going to be Trent Bolt who is going to start up a new over from the pavilion end. He's bowling to Root on 37. Well, he's not going to because he's actually moved out of the way there. Really wasn't quite ready. Listen to Izzy and Kempy for breakfast. That's Izzy Dag, former All Black, and Tony Kemp, former Warriors coach and rugby league champion. Weekdays from 6 a.m. on SENZ. Every week they'll have Baz McCullum on with them. There's Bolt. Now comes in, left arm over the wicket to Root, who pulls nicely in front of square, out towards the boundary, but Patel is quickly round to that, and it'll only be the 1 run, 166 for 3. It brings Folks back onto strike. The target still 111 runs away. And for England to get home here, you fancy it is going to require a contribution from Ben Folks, and we know he's very capable with the bat. He's got a fine first-class average, around 40. But this is a very different matter. It's a Lord's Test match against a very good bowling attack. It is, though, against a softer ball as Bolt is in. He reaches for this slightly, pushing away from his body to a back of a length delivery and pushes it to the offside. And there is no run. 166 for 5. Root on 38. They've just lost the wicket of Ben Stokes of England, and that has really livened up the Kiwis. There's a bit of a partnership. Their partnership of 90 for the 5th wicket. This match has been about 5th wicket partnerships. 180 odd put on by Mitchell and Blundell more than that. This is all pushed off the back foot in the air briefly. Short extra cover. 196 it was, those two put on. Now this fifth wicket partnership of England was 90, but it was broken in such curious fashion. As I say that, though, you always felt that Ben Stokes was going to get out in a rather unusual way, and I'm delighted to say, by Craig McMillan, and maybe he could pass judgment on the idiosyncrasy or lunacy of that dismissal.
It's an interesting innings from Ben Stokes. It was concerning from a New Zealand point of view because he was looking like he's finding some touch.
Rolled in, and that's driven back to him off the front foot by folks. There's no run.
But it was strange to see the amount of times he was charging, even
charging Jameson.
You sort of felt he just had to get through that spell because he would have had perhaps Ajaz Patel for another couple of overs, so there was runs there to be taken. But
that would have been the end of the spell, wouldn't it? Don't you think?
I think it would have been his final over. Yeah, it was a big wicket. Jameson's been outstanding for New Zealand.
Bolt in down the leg side, a brilliant stop by Blundell. I don't know if there's any bat on that. I'm going to wait for the umpire's signal.
There was.
Was there a little bit of bat on that? Well, the umpire has signalled nothing here. I don't know why he's still standing there, because there can't be an appeal because it didn't nestle in the keeper's glove. Oh no, now he's signalled by. That is teasing us. Umpire Goff. Well. So that's a terrific diving stop by Blundell. He saved 3 runs there. Frankly, 167 for 5 brings Root back on the strike. The last ball of the over, it was twice that Jameson did. They did that to Bairstow. Terrible shot from Bairstow. Frankly, a terrible shot from Stokes to extend his spell. Here's Bolt to complete the over, and Root drives back past him, and they're going to run through for a quick signal, and they will get there. Root will keep strike at the end of the over. He has 39. Folks has 3. England 168 for 5.
Hi, it's Adam Liao. Australian Made Week kicks off on the 6th of June, and it's time to celebrate and support our local makers and growers all around the country. Buying authentic Aussie products with the Australian Made logo helps boost our economy, supports local business, and creates jobs right across Australia. So, look for the famous green and gold logo and buy something genuinely Aussie this Australian Made Week. Because Australian Made makes Australia.
Welcome back. Test cricket on SEN in association with Rosine, the Pinks Kiwis Trust. 168 for 5, and Saudi is into the attack. Jameson has had to come off. It's been a long spell. He's got 16 overs, 4 for 51 today. And Saudi starts up, 2 slips to the gully. He's into Root, who works the ball into the onside nicely. Advanced on the ball, and he should get back for 2 as he flipped that up towards the grandstand. He does get back for 2 and moves into the 40s. He has 41. England 170 for 5.
New Zealand's big 3, Saudi, Bolt and Jameson, have just been rotated, haven't they, by the skipper, Williamson. He just keeps them going.
Well, there's no de Grandon, is there?
There's not. Daryl Mitchell could do a job if New Zealand wanted 4 or 5 overs of some medium pace. He could do a pretty good job if needed.
Here is Saudi. In again, wide of the off stump, and there's no run. He's been reluctant to use Mitchell. We don't see the one ball. It was completing the Colin de Grandon over. Why do you think that is?
There's at times an over-reliance on New Zealand's big 3. Quite often in New Zealand they play the 4-seamers, so then you've got Neil Wagner in the mix. And there's no spinner, so Kane is able just to rotate through those 4 fast bowlers. Here he's got to be a little bit more technical with only hitting 3.
Saudi in as the sun is right out now at Lords, and it's been cut down, not exactly where Root intended, but he'll get 4 for it, down to the deep third boundary. Very useful runs for England and frustration for Saudi. And just take a little look at this on the Chemist Warehouse replay and just see how deliberate that was. It was a little bit of an uppercut to it. There's a little flourish with the wrists. There's no one down there.
At least he went hard at it, Daniel, didn't he?
Yeah.
There was no in between. In that first innings, we saw a lot of players being tentative. Joe Root went hard and it flashed up and over the slips and raced away for 4.
174 for 5. Saudi in again to Root. Gets a thick inside edge. It rolls behind the square on the onside. Not just with a 1 run. Blundell Makes about 20 yards of ground to his left to field. 175 for 5.
Important innings for folks, isn't it, for England? He's got an opportunity here to really cement his side in this England.
It's quite massive innings, isn't it? Massive innings for him. If he's there at the back end of this innings and England have won, that'll make him feel fantastic. If he's out in this period and the tail comes in, people will ask those questions again about England's wicketkeeper. Southey in, and folks lets us go by outside the off stump. There's no run. What he's got to be able to try and find a way of doing, though, is rotate the strike, score, run, score signals. Because if he becomes becalmed, and it's all about route, scoring the runs, then that second new ball starts to become available. It brings tomorrow morning into play. It brings the cloudy overheads, all sorts.
Yep, that's for sure. You need to be scoring runs from both ends. So he needs to take some time to get himself in and just have a look, get used to the surface. But he has to look to be proactive, looking to score first.
Last ball of the over. Southey in. And Folks pushes in defence to short extra cover. That's the end of the over. Route 46. Folks 3. We'll take a break. After the break, Henry Moran will replace me. England 175 for 5.
Hear the major moments in sport crystal clear anytime, anywhere on the SEN app.
He's got it! 1,000 goals for Buddy Franklin! He cuts in onto his left foot, has a shot, it's in!
On air, podcasts, live sport, news, video content, your city, your town.
And the right horse gets the job done!
Download the SEN app from the Apple and Google App Stores. It's also available on Apple CarPlay. The SEN app, your home of sport, from wherever you are on the planet.
Welcome back to Lords, the home of cricket. 175 for 5. SEN's Test cricket with you as this match builds up to what looks like being a thriller. So much depends on what this man can do. The former England captain, Joe Root, waiting, leading, pushing Trent Bolt into the offside for 1 and picking up a run to move England's target to within 101. New Zealand need 5 wickets. Where are we going with this game, Craig?
Well, I like this from New Zealand. Give Joe Root 1, get him down the non-strikers in, bowl as many balls as you can. Big folks. Test him out. A couple of the players that batted above him, Parkinson, look at pretty good technique, a nice on drive. Hit down the ground off Southey for 4, so I just wonder whether there might be a rearrangement of numbers 8 to 11.
Yeah, you think back to Ashton Agar, the most famous number 11 of them all in 2013. Here comes Trent Bolt, ducking out of the way as folks, and a good bit of teamwork between keeper and first slip as the ball's parried up by Blundell and eventually plucked out of the sky by Daryl Mitchell, Centurion earlier on today. 176.
Always a little bit of a concern for me if Jimmy Anderson's in your side and he's not batting number 11. It necessarily doesn't say a lot for the bloke that's coming in behind him.
Are you saying that doesn't necessarily suggest things are going terribly well?
It suggests that whoever's coming in behind Jimmy Anderson's got some work to do with his batting.
Here comes Bolt, and chasing it. Folks will pick up a run as a good diving stop. That is well collected, prevented, if you like. Tim Southey diving across gully region to stop the ball on its progress down towards deep third. 177 for 5. The target exactly 100 away.
With the 2 highlights for New Zealand today, Daryl Mitchell bringing up his second Test match 100 and becoming the 15th New Zealander to go on the famous honours boards here at Lords with that Test 100. I think
Kyle Jameson's spell has been outstanding. He's got 4 for at the moment, I think. Deserves 5 and the opportunity to have his name up on the honours board as well. But they've been 2 standout performers so far today for New Zealand.
Full delivery, clipped away to the leg side. Lovely stop from Patel, diving at square leg to prevent anything more than a single for Joe Root, and that brings it into double figures. Just little psychological landmarks checked off.
Yep.
Some lovely colours across this outfield now as the sun begins to set. Lord's looking an absolute picture. The sort of shades you might find from Rosine that paints Kiwis just, with whom we're doing this commentary in partnership with. Thank you for joining us. It is quite the picture in front of us here at Lord's, and what a finish we've got built up as well.
It's been quite a windy day, actually. Looking at the flags down the far end of the pavilion, there's a tree right behind. The wind's been blowing for most of the day, isn't it? It's been strange weather-wise. We started with rain, slight delay, a 30-minute delay, but now the sun's out again. We've still got the lights on. So the Kiwis look like they're not happy with the ball, checking to see if it's gone out of shape.
Yeah, haircut. Rob Tucker's got those things that look a bit like handcuffs to try and establish
that's gone.
Whether the ball is out of shape, and it looks as though it has got stuck through one of the little measures. And so the Kiwi wished that they'll get not a new ball to use, but a different ball of a similar age to try and extract some life from. It looks like it might come true. Joe Root's laughing and smiling as a captain more times than anyone else for England in Test cricket. He has done that a number of times. He said we need a change, we need things to shift. So though he may not like it, I think it looks as though it is going to be a replacement ball as that box of alternatives is brought out from the third umpire.
Yeah, there can't be too many left in that box because there's been a number of ball changes throughout the Test match, which is a little bit unusual, fair to say, but still I'll be hoping that whatever one the umpires come back with, it's got a decent shine on it. That one doesn't look flash that they're showing on the TV right now. It's got a couple of marks on it. I want something with some nice shine, preferably on the dark side. Hopefully will provide some swing. That one's out of shape.
That's right, one through the little measure that is also out of shape. What's that doing in the box?
Yeah.
And that, as is that one.
That's got to go through that ring, and it's just getting stuck in the middle.
Unless Rob Tucker's measuring device itself is wonky.
Well, could be.
Cricket is an extraordinary game. Millions of dollars spent on the staging, the planning, the TV coverage, and there is 30,000 people in the ground, millions watching on television, 3 men, a pair of cheap handcuffs, and some wonky cricket balls.
I personally believe that the rule should be that you play with the ball until it's time to change it out of the overs. It doesn't matter if it goes out of shape, tough luck. That's your ball. You use it. We're so concerned and worried in cricket about everything being perfect, but sometimes things aren't perfect, so you just got to go with it. I really, if you get a ball that goes out of shape, so what? That's just the way it is. It might actually do more out of shape. Who knows? It might be more consistent with bounce, but
I think there's a psychological element to it where if you're feeling comfortable in the crease and suddenly there's a new ball, everyone gets a little bit of a lift and maybe you just feel slightly like, oh, okay, I've got to reset here.
Yeah, well, you feel good. If you've been doing it for a while, you sort of know how much the ball's swinging and what it's doing, so you get comfortable with that. So if there's a ball change, all of a sudden you have to reset, don't you? Because you don't know, is it going to move, is it going to stay straight, or what sort of ball what's going to do. So it's just going to take a few deliveries just to check and see whether there's going to be any swing for the Kiwis here with this new ball.
Well, after all of that, we're ready to go once again. Tim Southey is going to bowl with a score at 178 for 5. The target 277. Root is on 48. Folkes is on 4. As Southey begins the approach from the nursery end. Root waiting, working the ball square on the leg side to move to 49. And the target now 98 runs away.
Yeah, if you break it down, 98, so you say 10 lots of 10 gets us home, 10 runs. Doesn't seem a lot, does it? If you break it down like that, 10 lots of 10, you can do that. It's easy. 198 still seems a long way away. And it has been in this game where runs have been at a premium. Daryl Mitchell, the only 100 of the match so far. Chasing here, England.
Salvi in, over the wicket, laid into the leg side. Folks will have to be quick. Folks is lightning, and in the air, the pressure too much on the field of Jameson, who had a long way to get down, running round. He couldn't do anything to prevent one more. As you say, you just break it down into little sections. 180 for 5. New Zealand not desperate for a wicket at this stage, but if they could get one of these two, then as we speak about, that tail is so vulnerable.
I always felt earlier in the day that either Joe Root or Ben Stokes needed to score 100, and if they did, England would get very close. What's Root on? 49, throw another 50.
By Root back up the track.
And all of a sudden, with another 20 odd runs, maybe from the Folks, one of the tail enders, it's game on. Quality players, and former captain. First test in the side. I think he doesn't have the captaincy now, might free him up. He hasn't quite got the responsibility that he had. Of course, he's a senior member of the side, so the other players will look to him. Might just free up his batting even more, which is dangerous for opposition.
Root waiting, beat him. Ball flashing past the outside edge through to Blundell. So we look at the Chemist Warehouse replay. He didn't bring the bat inside the line of the ball, but it was just a little moment of encouragement for Tim Southey.
It's a nice delivery, wasn't it? Just a little bit of away movement. It's been a bit of a common theme throughout this test match, isn't it? There's just been enough for the bowlers. Very rarely has there been any periods where the ball hasn't done anything. There's always been something happening.
Fielders come in from the boundary as Southey approaches. Forward, working the ball square on the leg side, and there's 50. The roar of Root around this ground. It's not the first time he's reached a milestone at this venue. First Test 100 came here. And Joe Root, for the 54th time in Test matches, reaches a half century. 181 for 5. One ball left to the 56th over of this innings. The target, 277. And Joe Root now is exactly 50 away from 10,000 runs in Test match cricket.
Classy knock from Joe Root. He's looked composed throughout the innings on a surface that most haven't.
Folks on strike is defending comfortably. And that is the conclusion of the over. 56 have been bowled in this innings. 181 for 5, the England score. Folks on 5, Root on 50. The target, 277.
On the SEN app, check out the SENW channel with stars of women's sport at home and abroad. Daisy Pierce, Katie Brown, Stephanie Brance. Plus, on the SENW channel, we cover AFLW, Rugby League, W League, netball, cricket, and track the female stars of horse racing and more. For the latest news, interviews, and catch-up podcasts with the biggest names in women's sport, jump on the SENW channel. Download the SEN app now.
On SENZ, live from Lords with Razine, the Paints Kiwis Trust. We're heading towards the latter stages of day 3 and the latter stages of this test match as in comes Trent Bolt to bowl to Root up on his toes, pushed into the offside. There'll be no run. And the score remains at 181 for 5. Goodbye to Craig McMillan. Hello once again to Jared Kimber. Where do we see this guy?
I still think there's a chance it's over tonight. Macca just left saying no way, we're back tomorrow. But I think it's a little bit dark, and if they can get past Folks, you and I know there's not a lot to come. Potts averages 18 in first-class cricket. Didn't look like he enjoyed the left-arm fast bowling of Trent Bolt in the first innings, and then we've got the 3 more entertaining men behind him.
Entertaining in what sense?
Well, sure, Broad certainly entertaining.
Oh, yes.
Jimmy Anderson's more entertaining from when he's facing spin. There will be no reverse sweeps in this innings.
Here comes Trent Bolt. Into bowl to Joe Root, who works that ball off the hips. Down behind square on the leg side for one. And England moves to 182 for 5. At what point do the Black Caps start thinking we need a wicket here? This is getting awkward.
So folks have been in for 18 balls. If they can get a wicket within the next 18 runs, I still think I'd be very confident if I was them. It might be, if it does take a while to get this partnership out, it might be the sort of point that then Root can maybe get one tail ender to stick with him for a while. But realistically, if they get a wicket within the next 18 runs, it's a lot for the tail to put on with all that pressure. Yeah. I mean, I see what Macca was saying about the good shot that Matt Parkinson played the first innings. He's not batting behind Jimmy Anderson by accident.
This is skewed away from the batter, folks. It goes between the fielder at gully and point. At catchable height. And into the shadows in front of the grandstand. Just a little moment of fortune for Ben Foakes, who moves to 7. And England up to 184 for 5. That was not convincing.
No. I think this is where turning the ball on the leg side is something he likes to do a lot. They've got 2 men there, and I think he was trying to get a little bit finer, so he closed the face, and it could have gone anywhere. And I think they've moved Southey towards where that last edge went. The problem for England is they need 93 to win with 5 wickets in hand on a pitch where it's not particularly easy to score.
Folks waiting, driving, reaching for it rather. He won't find the run though, because the fielder Williamson is waiting at mid-off. There's 2 slips in the gully. They've got a long leg, fine leg really from the form of Carl Jameson. A long leg in the sense that he's 6'8". Fielder at short mid-wicket. H.S. Patel is just in front of square on the leg side, a mid-on and a mid-off. And Trent Bolt at the far end of the ground, turning in that familiar fashion, beginning this sprinted approach into Bolt. Foakes, who comes forward with a straight back, plays up towards mid-on, and there'll be no run. The score at 184 for 5 still.
Yeah, they've got 4 players on the leg side. Part of the reason is because Bolt was bowling around the wicket, but also it's because Foakes really wants to score. They haven't over-attacked that much with slips. They've really brought in a lot of catching leg side fielders more so than anything else. But they've kept those slips in, but we just know that wickets can fall so quickly in this particular game.
Bolt holding short and wide delivery to Foakes, who tries to reach for it, feet going nowhere, just chops it into the turf, and will feel 1 that he's missed out and 2 that he's played possibly. And this is a reasonably stiff competition, the ugliest shot of the day. 184 for 5 is the score, the target 277.
It seems unfair to call that the ugliest shot of the day because Ben Stokes went out of his way to do something before. You know what that looked like? I'm trying to think how often I've ever seen Ben Foakes cut. I don't know if you know this, but there are certain international players who just can't play the cut shot. And if you look at his foot there, it might just mean that he was surprised. He didn't expect Bolt to be short and wide. But if you look at his back foot, it actually was going back towards the leg side, and he just couldn't reach it.
Tim Southey bowling a new over to Joe Root. Clips the ball off the pads, down towards the boundary on the leg side, and to that boundary in front of the grandstand, behind square. Fielder in pursuit couldn't get there. And Root moves to 55. England up to 188 for 5, chasing 277.
Yeah, but that was brilliant because there's 2 men out there. They're bowling a little bit for the LBW, I think, there with Southey. He's got the 2 slips in the gully in place, but he's trying to bowl very straight, very full, hoping that Root misses one. With the 2 men out, knowing that if he gets a single, it doesn't matter. And in this case, Root timed the ball so well, placed it so well that he's picked up a boundary. So that's a real bonus for England, that boundary.
Southey in again. Upright approach past the umpire. This is flashed away. Goes behind square on the offside. It's going to go down towards the tavern for 4. It was short and wide. Overcorrected Tim Southey. And Root could just throw the hands through the ball, pick up a boundary, and Kane Williamson stands. Hands on hips. Wondering, well, where do I turn next? Because while still in a good position in this game, with Root still there, England will feel more than in this match. 1-9-2 for 5.
Root's standing outside off stump and down the wicket. It was an odd position to get himself in, and it was uppish.
2 slips in the gully weight. In comes Southey on the pads. Root will pick up 1 behind square on the leg side, turns for a second, wants it, but it's not there. So 9 runs from the first 3 balls of this 58th over of the innings, and England 193 for 5. Target 277.
We haven't seen much of Southend in this session, and Kyle Jamieson's already warming up, so I wonder if we're going to see Bollington. This is where that Colin de Grandhomme injury is a bit annoying for them. They can't just nip in a couple of overs to rest the other guys in what is going to be a long session, and I suppose a long day as well. That's one thing that is definitely in England's favour.
Ben Stokes chews his fingernails on the England balcony. This goes down the leg side, through to the gloves of the keeper. In white ball cricket, that would have been a wide. So in a test match, that sort of line from Southey. Folks, the sleeves rolled up, and the bulky presence of a chest guard visible beneath his England jersey has a little look around. Where might be the scoring options? Beginnings for him this test career,
definitely. Failure here, I think the gloves go to Bairstow by the end of the series, if not earlier.
Southey in. Played with a very straight bat by Folks. The ball curled back in the stumps by Southey. Win predictor is gloriously poised. 51% England, 48% New Zealand.
1% tie? Feels like I think the tie should be higher.
I'd love to see it tie.
Would we all? Incredible. Wasn't the last one was yeah, so it's almost 40 years ago now. Ridiculous. We've only had 2 in 2,600 test matches, I think.
Reasonably. Well, what a moment. Here comes Southey. This is left alone outside the off stump. Flies on through to the keeper. End of the over. 58 gone. In the context of Test cricket, reasonably short space of time between each other. 1960 and then 1986. Right then, the score 193 for 5. The target 277. Adam Collins is coming in shortly.
Does Kennards make trade easy? Kenoth. Is iced coffee liquid gold milk straight from the udders of heaven? Kenoth. Do tradies deserve special treatment like a 2-hour delivery promise, equipment swap and service on site, and express load and go service and heaps more at their local Kennards hire branch? Kenoth! Head to your closest branch to get the trade easy experience.
Kennards make your job easy. England require 84 runs to win, and we're talking ties. One of my favourite topics. Adam Collins joining Jared Kimber. You're right. It's a chance. It's certainly a bigger chance than the draw. You don't say that too often. Kyle Jamieson's been swung around to the pavilion end. He's done his best work running up from the nursery. What looked to be the final over of his spell. Indeed, I think it was the final over of his spell that picked up Ben Stokes. No, sorry, he went on after that, but it would have been, I suspect, if not for that crucial breakthrough. Now he's bowling at Root on 60. Slip in a gully, delivers here. Root driving straight to cover. I wonder what we might be coming back for on day 4. I was talking to Daniel off air about 1982 at Melbourne, where Border and Thompson came back for 34 runs the next day and got 31 of them, I think. Might be a similar equation this evening. Of course, there is the opportunity for the umpires to call for the extra half an hour, which is not necessarily at 8 wickets or otherwise. It's discretion of the central umpire. Jamieson bowls on the back foot. Goes Root, pushing out to the offside, no run. I remember Gunnar Gould, the test match you and I were doing, Jared, at Brisbane in 2016, Australia-Pakistan, a day-night test. Ian Gunnar Gould was quite keen to get on with it and took the extra half hour, 7 down, and Pakistan was still there the next day.
But that was offered to that was because Steve Smith thought it was automatic, and he he wasn't asked about it, and it was actually it was a miscommunication. Do you remember? There was a whole kerfuffle about it.
Jameson bowls to Root on the up through cover, not far away, and slips through the legs of the man a bit off as well, down towards the rope in front of the Warner stand. Work to do. Just hold in at the last. So the misfield costs them 3, but it wasn't far away from the man at cover either. Kane Williamson, the captain, was the man who wasn't able to stop the ball a bit off. Yes, that was on the up. Williamson moving to his left and straight through his legs.
I think that's partly just the pressure that Joe Root has put on them. He's been pushing quite hard for runs. He's been aggressive. Williamson knew that he was under pressure there, and just a simple error.
An extra slip in position for Ben Folkes on 7. He's faced 25 deliveries. Jameson 2 in here, and Folkes hit on the pad shoutfully before. Jameson's the only man interested, going well over the top. They won't be reviewing that.
Well, yes. Also, Blundell was flying down the leg side. He was at leg slip when he appealed for that Blundell, and it wasn't a real appeal. He just sort of put up one hand. It was probably closer than it originally looked, just because I think he might have fallen over a little bit there, folks, or might have been a bit wider on the crease. But yeah, it wasn't out.
So catching mid-wicket, the other man in close. What a great opportunity this is for Ben Folkes. His first test match at home. Trying to bed down his spot in his England 11. Jameson approaches in here. Penultimate delivery in the over. Folkes leaves it alone close to the off stump. Thus the U's and R's from the Kiwi Corden.
And me. Do you know what framing is in baseball?
No.
So in baseball, there are catchers who they worked out when they started doing Moneyball. Certain catchers make more strike calls and less ball calls by the way they frame their hands. Okay. And I think there are certain wicketkeepers who are also very good at this. We just probably don't have the data on it to be able to tell. But all I'm saying is to Blundell, maybe don't run down the leg side and then appeal. If anything, take a step back right behind the stumps, then put your hands up.
Jameson, last ball of his set to the crease. Wider of it, bowls here. Folkes punches hard out towards cover point. End of the over, just the 3 runs coming from it. The misfield, 196 for 5 the score. Root 63, Folkes 7. Root's never made a 4th inning century. And if he reaches 100 here, and he'll need to if England are to win, he'll also bring up 10,000 runs in Test cricket. All there for him, the former captain. England at one stage were 159 for 5 when they lost Ben Stokes, the only wicket in this session. Caught trying to uppercut or ramp Kyle Jameson just when it really felt like it was swinging in England's favour, and that wicket changed the energy of this final session entirely.
No, I think at that point you would have to have said that it was the first time you felt that England could really chase it. I don't mean someone like Mr. Coney, who hasn't seen enough of them, hasn't been like it, that sort of depressing weight of watching them back just ruined you. But those of us who've seen so much of them, that was the first point where I was like, there's no reason why they shouldn't go take this close, and then he scooped the ball off his eyelids.
Now a fly slip of sorts for Southee bowling to Root, who defends down towards mid-on. They run to Folkes rather, I should say.
So this was
sorry to Root. The scoreboards can unclear, and thus I'm unclear too.
So last over, he walks across the stumps and a little bit down the pitch, and he got a length ball really outside off stump, maybe back of a length, and he slashed it over Gully's head to almost exactly where the fielder is now.
Well, he knows he likes to score in that region, so it's a run-saving measure, and potentially, if on the up, could be in play for the catch as well. Southee, nursery, and away from us to Root, using his feet to shuffle down as the ball's bowled, and Southee collects in his follow-through, considers piffing it at the stumps, thinks better of it.
Yeah, and he got the 9 runs off 3 balls last over with that slash and a couple of good shots off his pads. One for a single where he was aiming for 2 but couldn't quite sneak over. The other one was beautifully placed. So they just want to slow him down at the moment because Folkes doesn't look anywhere near as confident.
I think it's in New Zealand's interest to slow the game down entirely. I mean, notwithstanding
take your shoe off.
Overrates.
Let's do it broad when we need it.
Yes. I mean, there's a lot of overs to go today which they will not get in. As Southee delivers, short ball, Root
leaves it through to the gloves of Blundell, takes the fingers up, working his through, having Root needing to restart tomorrow morning. The second new ball then becomes a factor deeper into the morning, sure, but at least they get another go at Root fresh. That worked well this morning. England took 6 for 49 against two-set men in Mitchell and Blundell. We've seen 6 wickets in the first session on day one. We saw 7 wickets in the first session today.
Well, there's 2 hurdles, isn't there? There's the new ball and there's the restart. You want them to have to worry about both.
Have to be tomorrow. Southie bowls and defending his Root. I mean, they will be tomorrow. It's how deep into tomorrow that plays out. But I can't see New Zealand hurrying here.
And they also have to stop Root from scoring so easily, especially with the boundary. I don't think they're too worried about the singles anymore. I think the bouncer is a really important one for Root.
So before the last delivery here, they're going to bring up deep square up from the grandstand right.
They did this before, and he didn't get in time, and Root hit the ball straight to him and took a single because he was so slow coming in off the boundary.
And they're bringing up deep point. Ajaz Patel's going to come up on the one as well. So they want to get folks back on strike. Good cricket. That fly slip, deep backward point, kind of awkwardly positioned, stays put. Southie to finish. Bowls here, slashing his Root. It gets through. Off the bottom edge, down towards the rope, and it's 4. Wow. Inside edge, not far away from the off stump. It brings up the England 200. Root to 67. It's all happening here at Lords. They're 77 runs away from the target. There's still 1 ball left in this over, so they brought up the field with 2 balls left. There's applause from the audience for that next milestone reached, 200.
Not so much for the shot, which was about 8 to 9 inches from off stump. That would have been a no ball even if he hit it back into his stumps.
Yeah, that the feature of point being brought up isn't that suddenly opens up a boundary there. Forward to the good for England. Last ball here from Southie. A couple of catching there behind the wicket. Root shuffles forward, tries to clip through the onside, can't beat mid-wicket. Now it's the end of the over. 200 for 5 is the score. England 77 runs away. Our coverage for Razine. The Pates Kiwis trust.
On the SEN app, check out the SENW channel with stars of women's sport at home and abroad. Daisy Pierce, Katie Brown, Stephanie Brance. Plus, on the SENW channel, we cover AFLW, Rugby League, W League, netball, cricket, and track the female stars of horse racing and more. For the latest news, interviews, and catch-up podcasts with the biggest names in women's sport, jump on the SENW channel. Download the SEN app now.
200 down, 77 to go for England. New Zealand require 5 wickets, but England have a very long tail. 3 number 11s in Broad, Anderson and Parkinson and Potts. Well, no one really knows how he'll go against test match quality bowling. Jameson, fresh over, bowls to Folks, who leaves alone not far from the off stump again, down the slope. Jameson hands on heads after the ball ends up in the gloves of Blundell. And that did move appreciably.
As the last 2 balls of that over, we saw Root take the inside edge and get the boundary, and then we saw him miss the half volley that was fairly straight at around leg stump. He's really frustrated at the end of that. I think the pressure of the situation is now certainly getting to him, whereas when he was batting with Stokes, he looked a lot more in control, as the shadows are getting a lot longer out there as well.
Ben Folks averaging nearly 100 in first-class cricket this year on strike. Down towards mid-on, though, run. I say this year I'm reflecting on the county championship. He's made an unbeaten 100 against Warwickshire. So in good nick coming into this test match, but it feels like he's, this won't be fair to him, but it feels like he's almost a night watchman here. He's just got to absorb as many deliveries as he can.
Well, New Zealand are treating him a little bit like a tail ender, aren't they? The way they're moving the field around. And even the way that Root was batting, I don't think he was shielding him as much, but he was thinking, I need to control this slightly more. He certainly wasn't doing that when Stokes was up there.
So Jameson, no men out. Bowling to Folks, who defends out towards mid-off, no run. Sorry, 1 man out at fine leg. But other than that, everyone up on the one. A couple of slips in a gully. I wonder what they'll do if Folks gets out. I mean, by convention, you bring Potts in next. be an argument for Broad. I mean, I send him out. I'm not even sure. Have some fun. I'm not even sure I subscribe to the argument, but there could be an argument for just given the way he bats, he comes off or he doesn't. And if he comes off in a situation like this, well, it's going to make the job an awful lot easier for the men that follow. Jameson up to the crease, off the folks clipping, but only as far as AJS Patel, just in front of square, no run.
If Root goes out, it probably makes more sense for Broad to come out and see if he can knock off 30 runs really quickly.
Yes.
If you've got a proper batter, you might, and we don't know that much about Potter's batting because we saw 2 balls and he looked terrified of a left-arm pace bowler, and you don't face many of those in county cricket. He might be fine against everyone else, for instance. We just don't know. But if Potts is a hanger-arounder, then that might work better for Root.
For a guy who's played a fair bit of county cricket, there are very much conflicting reports on Matty Potts' batting. Facing up here is folks and swaying out the way from a short delivery from Kyle Jameson. I've heard everything ranging from very confident defensively through to he's a dead set number 11. So well, I suppose
it's a bit like
time will tell.
It's a bit like he's got a similar career to early Jofra Archer, where he's probably played about 27, 28 games, but they've been scattered over different seasons.
Yes. And he missed the whole year with a major injury.
He played I think in one year he bowled 2 overs, another year he bowled 50 or 60 overs. Yeah. So there's a couple of years when nothing happened at all.
Yeah, his emergence has been relatively quick from being just another county bowler to being in the shop window this season with 35 wickets. Jameson delivers here to folks off his hip, clipping, might be thigh pad. Blundell races down to cut it off. In the end, leaves it to the fine leg. They return for a couple of leg byes. Well run by folks, especially 202 for 5. It is signalled leg bias, so folks remains on 7 at the end of the over. So we'll have 15 more minutes of play. It should work out to about 4 overs. I wonder whether they might tempt fate a wee bit and have a look at AJS Patel one more time, just given that he's not going to be up against either man looking to pop him into the grandstand the way that Stokes did 3 times.
No, these are probably outside of Bairstow. Well, Root's the best player of spin, and Stones is probably their third best player of spin after Bairstow. Interesting there, I don't know if you noticed that, the point went out. They were giving the single to folks, which is probably more annoying that he ended up getting 2 leg byes, but they gave him a single, which means they're starting to treat him like a tail ender as well. Or not a tail, a tail ender. I mean, they wanted him on strike.
Yeah, and I don't think that England necessarily would mind that either. It kind of suits both teams because the more balls that folks can absorb, the greater probability that Joe Root's here for morning 4. Noting that the probability of the game finishing today is pretty slim. So where can they get to by stumps on day 3 with 14 minutes to go? Southey, 1 slip, bowls here to Root, who pulls hard through the onside but straight to the sweeper and deep backward square. Root's a 68, England 203 for 5, a target 277.
I think if you're going to bowl the short ball out, you really need to get it higher than that. He's got away with it. It was perfectly timed. But if the idea was to bowl the short ball then, and maybe it just didn't get up that much, but it just has to be shorter than that. You want him to make a decision about hooking at this time. There's no point just allowing him to paddle the ball around the corner for 1. Or, he timed it so well. If he picked the gap there, he could have got another boundary.
So a second slip in position with folks on strike. He's 7. Southey to him here, and he leaves alone. On that 5th stump line, a good place for Southey to be a tempter. I wonder how they'll finish this day. So that'll be Southey here, then presumably Jameson to bowl the last over from the pavilion end. But will they try something funky to finish? I mean, AJ's would be the option for that. Jeremy Coney shaking his head. He wants to finish with Southey. Yep.
Darryl Mitchell, you wanted. Jeremy was saying he wanted Darryl Mitchell to bowl cover.
Assuming there's 2 overs after this, Jeremy will, or maybe 3 at most. Southey bowls and defended from the line of the middle stump by folks out towards mid-on, no run.
I think Bob was an outside chance, isn't he? Back in the sense.
Yep,
that's my guess.
That's true. They've got options, that's for sure, New Zealand. Quality pace attack.
Although not quite the options they should have because of de Grandhomme's injury. So this has been a very long session. Luckily, not a very long test match, so they shouldn't be as tired as they normally would be in a fourth innings.
Southie's 18th over. Jameson's bowled 18 as well. Southie bowls and folks competently in behind it in defence. Bolts is sent down as I wait for my scorecard to load. 20. And then 3.5 from the Grandhomme, injured with that heel strain that he's getting scanned this evening, we're told. And AJ Patel, 2 overs for 22, but
Darryl Mitchell's 1 ball. Don't forget Darryl Mitchell's 1 ball.
I've always thought Darryl Mitchell's a better bowler than that.
I just think he's too similar to de Grandhomme when you've got both of them.
As well, in the absence of de Grandhomme, he might become an option tomorrow morning before the second new ball comes around. Still 18 more overs after this between now and then. Southie delivers and folks again does the job. In behind it, back to the bowler. He's seeing them well now, the Surrey wicketkeeper.
Yeah, he's looking much better now. But before, he was certainly a little bit nervous. I think he played a couple of okay shots and was pushing, but he just looked like at any stage he might nick off.
I'll tell you what, if you've got a ticket for day 4, you'll get value for money. Well, you may not see much cricket, but you'll see what's likely to be a thrilling finish one way or the other. Still 3 of the 4 results firmly on the table, the third being the tie. We dare to dream here on SENZ Test Cricket. Southie, last ball of the over. Bowls here edged on the bounce through the hands of second slip. They'll get through for a single. Folks retains the strike, which New Zealand probably won't mind, all things considered. 204 for 5 the score. Folks moves to 8. Brute 68. The target is 73 runs away.
Real Adventures with Patrick Dangerfield and Aaron Hapgood. Everything fishing, boating and outdoors.
6,500 metres deep below the Indian Ocean's surface. Still in Australian waters. They've set out their underwater machine to head down to check out the bottom, and the piece of equipment's worth $100,000. And on the end of it was a $30 yabby trap, which found this new creature, the little snailfish.
Patrick Dangerfield and Aaron Hapgood. Subscribe and listen today wherever you get your podcasts.
SENZ Test Cricket for Rosine, the paint the professionals use. Adam Collins, Jared Kimber, 10 minutes to go on this third evening, and nobody's in a hurry out there at the moment. Ben Folks just going to face up now to Kyle Jamieson. So they should get 3 more in. I wouldn't be surprised if it's 2. Jamieson, pavilion end. 2 slips and a catching mid-wicket. Folks, forward, defending, out towards mid-off.
Yeah, Darryl Mitchell just did an incredibly gentle shuffle down to his position at first slip, like he'd been riding a horse for a long time.
So tomorrow, if they get 3 in, it'll mean that there are 15 overs until the second new ball, and assuming England don't score too many more runs from here, that they'll still be roughly 70-odd runs away from the finish line. So in all probability, that second new ball will be a factor at some point.
No, they'll be less than 70 runs away from the finish line.
Well, if
when the second new ball hits, they should be.
I'm saying by close play.
Oh, sorry, yeah.
Jamieson well wide of the crease to folks who pushes it out towards mid-wicket. There's no run there. I'm saying that like tomorrow we might be in a situation where it's 15 overs with the old ball, 70-ish runs to get, and that's tantalising.
No, definitely. New Zealand have a double chance there. 2 things that England are not looking forward to. I mean, at the moment, I know Brute played a couple of rash shots in a row earlier, but he just looks completely in control.
I said well wide of the, sorry, Jared, before the next ball's bowled, I said well wide of the crease. I think Jamieson was pretty much touching the side crease there. I'm not sure if it was called retrospectively. I haven't seen the board tick over. It remains 204 for 5. Jamieson delivers and folks defends. That had plenty of reverse swing as well. We saw it on the Chemist Warehouse replay screen between balls. It's right on the edge of that side crease with the previous ball.
And that last one there just kept a little bit low. The folks made it look a little bit lower the way he played it, but certainly didn't get up. It's a minefield. First swing, keeping low.
Love to see it. Plenty of people still here. Nearing 7 p.m. Jamieson passes umpire Goff. Bowls here, folks. Down leg side, helps it on its way. There'll be runs. There'll be 2 of them. Back comfortably.
folks move to the double figures, or is that leg buys? It is leg buys. In any case, 2 runs added for England. They're up to 206 for 5.
His hips scored a couple of Jameson down there.
Hips don't lie. Sorry. So 7 minutes until the scheduled close of play. It feels to me like New Zealand are trying to make this the penultimate over if they can. Jameson up to the crease. Bolster folks in behind it defensively, out towards cover point. I'm not sure. It might require some real manipulation of the clock, though, because it's not yet 6 minutes to 7. So in all probability, Jameson will have one more over of work before he's finished tonight. And as you foreshadowed in the previous over, out goes deep point, out goes deep backward square. They want folks to take the single. And I suspect England won't mind the single either, if they are looking to protect Joe Root for tomorrow, implicitly at least. Bouncer. Folks doesn't take it on. End of the over, 206 for 5. A few further words from Jared Kimber as we make our way through to the close of play. And replacing me for the last couple of overs will be Henry Moran.
I mean, if they did want him to take the single, I'm not sure the incredibly fast bouncer down the leg side was the ideal ball to be bowling to him. But that might have just been part of the double bluff. Folks is not particularly good against the short ball. That's certainly, especially the fast short ball. It's something that he's had trouble with for a little while, so it's he might have been looking for something there, but that was a bit of a wasted delivery in the end. Hello, Henry.
Hello again. Here we go once more. What can Tim Southey and whoever will bowl? There should be another over. Whether we see it, we'll wait and see. Here comes Southey. Worked way off the pads. Behind square on the leg side by Joe Root. Down towards the Warner stand, which is increasingly emptying as supporters make their way towards the tube. And that'll be 2 runs to Root as the score moves to 207 for 5. The target 277. So my maths is correct. 70 away.
It says 69 on the board.
Oh, because they've moved to 208 for 5. So my maths wasn't right. There you go. How disappointing.
I mean, I'm not doing any maths. I'm literally looking at the thing that says 2 win.
Which is what I should have been doing. And I try to be smart.
Hey.
And as often happens, you fall in a heat. In comes Tim Southey to bowl to Joe Root. He plays the ball into the leg side, and that familiar up on his toes, almost feels like he's in mid-air as he plays it, clipping towards mid-on. So 08 for 5. Are they going to manage? No, they surely can't manage to avoid another over. 4 minutes schedule left to play.
I mean, no one out on this field is in any kind of hurry at the moment. The 12th man was actually about 10 metres in, having a chat to Charles Jameson.
One slip, a gully, and Tim Southey bustling in. Once again, played behind square on the leg side. There'll be 2 more runs from the battered Joe Root, who is now perhaps in a position to start thinking about a couple of significant milestones, not in only the context of this game, but also his career. 210 for 5, the England score. The target is 277. Root 28 runs away from what would be yet another Test century. But as well as that, the all-too-rare milestone of 10,000 Test runs. Partnership worth 51 now. It's the little ripple of applause you hear around the ground. Here comes Tim Southey into bowl to Root, who leans forward and just for a moment is out of this crowd as the throw comes in from the gully. And it wouldn't be the first time today we've seen a dismissal from that fielder. From that fielder, it was Colin de Grandhomme who perished in that way what feels like about 4 years ago.
It's been a day, definitely. Root's been very good at manipulating this field behind leg side, but behind square on the leg side, the fine leg, they've kept him fine, and the deep backward square leg is just behind the umpire, and I think he's taken an extra, well, at least an extra 5 runs from just manipulating the field there and finding that gap.
2 balls left in the over. Southey in, Root leaning on it. Wants the single, has to be quick. Throw comes in, he's quick enough.
So folks will face the strike for the final ball of the over. Now, Root will be on 73. Whether we see another over after this remains to be seen. The clock is 2 minutes before 7. They'll do well to drag out one delivery into 2 minutes here.
I'm trying to think of what fielding movements they could change. Bring up the dig back and square leg, then they're pushing back as if they've made the error.
That's sort of hokey-cokey.
Yeah. But it doesn't look like that, although is it Trent Bolt here gave the ball an extra shine.
2 slips in the gully now for the final ball of this over. Folks on strike on 8. England 2 11s for 5. Here comes now this. It's punched away nicely by folks up towards mid-off. And the skipper. End of the over. 2 11 for 5. The target 277. Still 2 minutes until the top of the hour. That tells us that we will have time for one more here on SENZ Test Cricket. From the home of Cricket Lords, 2 11 for 5 the score.
Folks, download the SEN app from the Apple and Google App Stores. Then get set for all your big moments in sports.
Ash on the forehand, Goscock's done it. Ash Barty. Callaway the shoulder three. He's striking them pure.
Listen to any SEN show from around Australia and New Zealand. Gary White and Tim Watson. This is Trackside. Tim Gossett.
There's an Izzy for breakfast.
Ansley. Plus, it's now available on Apple CarPlay. The SEN app, your home of sport, from wherever you are on the planet.
Welcome back to Lords Test Cricket on SENZ and across the SEN network. We've got Kyle Jamieson at the far end of the ground. He's bowled brilliantly. 4 wickets to his name already. Can he get the prize wicket of Joe Root in this final over of the day? No, not initially. It's a good push from Root, which is well stocked in the covers. 2 11 for 5.
Focuses 48 balls for 8 and has a couple of leg byes, which obviously don't go to his total but help England in this chase. He's finally, probably for the first time, looking in his best form in this test match so far. But then he's got to come out tomorrow morning and do it again. And if he goes out for like 15, even if England win, his place is still under pressure, despite the fact he's actually helped them potentially win the test match.
Jameson bowls to Root. A couple of pitches scatter as the ball dribbles across the outfield on the leg side. And Root will scamper back for 2. Good running from the former skipper. 213 for 5 here. Seeing plenty of intent from England in this final over, despite the fact that they might consider the fact that they just want to get to the close. But as you say, they have to start again tomorrow, these two. And in doing so, maybe they see there's a good opportunity against a tired bowler just to pick up 3 or 4 bonus runs that could be all important.
I think it makes sense. You want to use every one of the old balls, knowing that there's 15 overs to go before that second new ball goes. You don't want to sort of waste any of those. And certainly we're going for 2 catches on the leg side here and 3 men out on the boundary. What's Neil Wagner field, I think. Indeed, the third man's going out for a catch. So, well, they're certainly saying they're going to bowl the short ball. Well, let's see what Kyle Jameson actually bowls.
Everything points towards the ball being dug in. Let's have a little look what happens. Here comes Jameson. It is dug in. It's pulled away by Root along the ground, though. Just for a moment, the crowd held their breath, waiting to follow the track of that ball, because along the ground to Patel, behind square on the leg side, in front of the mound stand.
They're going to keep this as well for folks, although third man is going to come back up into Southey. He's going to come up into Gully. But the rest of the field sort of scattered out on the leg side. Look like they're going to stay there.
Ben Stokes. Well, I can see the soles of his shoes resting on the railings at the front of the England dressing room. He looks reasonably relaxed. The field stays pretty much the same, certainly on the leg side. A short delivery flies over the back of Ben Stokes, who ducks out of the way.
Would those railings be heritage listed?
You'd have thought.
Can he be charged for putting his feet on them?
I like to imagine that they've still got a sort of bits of beer spilled from years gone by, maybe a couple of cigarette burns from a few sort of 19th century mavericks.
Someone banging their bat into them like a dent on one of them.
Yeah.
Do you remember when Matt Pryor broke the window? Oh, yeah. I love bringing that up with him. He doesn't enjoy it as much, does he not?
Here comes Jameson. Another short ball, which is pulled away by Folks. It's more along the ground, in control. More work for the fielder out there, Patel, to do as one run is taken. 2 balls left in the day. 214 for 5. 1 ball left in the day, forgive me. 215 for 5 as the scoreboard ticks over.
That was an interesting shot on the second last ball of the day. I know that Root plays it as well, but playing the controlled hook shot at this time is not what I was expecting. I was expecting him to ride out the last couple of short balls. I know he's not particularly good at riding them out, but that's what I was thinking he might do, but he played it well.
Change of angle for Jameson. He's going to go around the wicket. See if he can target Root's ribs, shoulder, head. As he comes in now, does dig it in. Root pulls the ball away and along the ground to pick up 1 run and conclude the day's action with another single. Will head towards the dressing room on 77. He turns on his heel. England finish on 216 for 5. 61 runs away from a victory that looked oh so improbable when they found themselves 4 down. After a horrible little collapse. Well, how many times have we said that? But despite being 69 for 4, they've moved forward to 216 for 5. A target of 277 feels reachable. It is a long tail. New Zealand, Black Caps will know there is certainly an opportunity for them if they can get that breakthrough in the morning session.
Yeah, I think a normal batting lineup, 5-wicket stand, you'd say England was completely in control, but it's not a normal batting lineup. You've got to restart again in the morning, and the second new ball is sort of there and thereabouts to make everyone a bit more nervous. So with that, I don't know what Crickvis is currently saying, but it should be around still 50-50, even if they need quite a few wickets. And to be fair, when we've seen wickets fall, it's quite often a lot of them have happened in a row in this game.
Yeah, you have to strap yourselves in. Start tumbling. If there's one thing we've learned from this game, it is that. Right then, so the close of play sees England 216 for 5. Target of 277, so 61 runs away. Joe Root is on 77. Carl Jameson, the standout bowler, no question, 4 for 59. Gave it his all in that final over as well, really trying to dig that ball in, try and force the full shot, unable to do so. The sun is beginning to set here in northwest London. The supporters that have had a grand day out are beginning to filter away, and those fans that have got a ticket for day 4 who are thinking, well, possibly we'll need to find something else to do with our Sunday, are going to have some entertainment tomorrow morning. It may not last all that long, but it is going to be a thriller.
One of my favourite days at Lords as a punter was the 5th day of the 2009 Ashes, which didn't go for very long, because then afterwards the cricket didn't interrupt the drinking, but they kept the bars open, so they may do that again tomorrow.
Okay, which is, of course, the real sport and the real reason.
That's why we're all here.
Well, it's been a joy to be here, it really has. Thank you to you, Jared Kimber. Thank you as well to Adam Collins, Craig McMillan, Jeremy Koenig, and Daniel Norcross. My name is Henry Moran. You've been listening to Cricket on SENZ. Alongside our partners, Rosine, the paint that professionals use, also Chemist Warehouse. Thank you for joining us here on SENZ. We'll speak to you again tomorrow. We'll be underway half an hour before play.
On the SEN app, check out the SENW channel with stars of women's sport at home and abroad. Stacey Pierce, Katie Brown, Stephanie Brance. Plus, on the SENW channel, we cover AFLW, Rugby League,